fucking zen. Give me space, at least 6 feet. Dig my grave, just as.
Give me groceries and booze. Give me FaceTime with my friends. Give me intravenous news. Little drips of CNN. Give me meditation apps. Text me pictures of your dog. Just give me life. Give me peace. Give me noise. Someone give me fucking zen. Someone give me fucking zen.
Give me space, at least 6 feet. Dig my grave, just as deep. I got sex on my mind all the time. Fuck, scrolling through the internet, time suck. I've been feeling flat like a pancake. I could use a hug or a handshake. I could use some drugs or a band-aid. Cooped up in a hole, I wanna lose all my control. I wanna just go on a rampage. Give me wisdom, give me teeth. Give me vision, let me see. Give me courage to confess. Every night I text my ex. Give me girls, give me boys. Give me life, give me peace, give me noise. Someone give me fucking zen. Someone give me fucking zen. Give me fucking zen.
I need something to avoid all of my fears and paranoia. Someone give me fucking zen. Yeah. Give me an appetite, give me hope for the afterlife, or a reason to look past tonight. Give me happiness when I found the fame. Give me music that doesn't all sound the same. Give me something that I could look forward to. Give me humans that I could get closer to. You look down at me, but the next thing you know, it's you with the rent overdue. Give me a little bit of piece of your peace of mind. Give me a piece of yours, you'll get the peace of mind. Give me something to do when there's nothing to do, but when I get it, shit'll probably just fuck it up too. Give me 2 steps to the left. Give me 1 step to the right. Give me 1 dance with the volume at 10 and someone, anyone, give me fucking zen. Someone give me fucking zen. Give me fucking zen. I need something to avoid all of my fears and paranoia. Someone give me hope for something better. Give me justice for my cries. Tell me we're all in this together, and if we're not, then tell me lies. Give me love, give me Wi-Fi, give me drugs, give me sky high, give me headspace. Set my head straight, cut the dead weight, burn the red tape. Give me the good old days from 7 days ago. Let me go outside again. Give me life, give me peace, give me noise. Someone give me fucking zen. Someone give me fucking zen. Give me fucking zen. I need something to avoid all of my fears and paranoia. Someone give me fucking zen.
As if I'm out here all alone. Yeah, that's okay. Most of the time I don't know where I'm going. When I get there, yeah, I know I'm gonna feel right at home. You know my verses, know my cursing at my telephone. I hear them calling, yeah. But I ain't hearing it, I'm out here trying to take it slow. But I ain't stopping, yeah. Cause I ain't got the time, yeah, I got somewhere else to go. And I'm just trying to get somewhere, get somewhere. Yeah, I'm just trying to get somewhere. When I get there, I'm gonna ditch these clothes. No more suits and ties, only real people. When the time is right and the sun is low, I'm gonna let you know. When I get there, I'm gonna ditch these clothes. Gonna trade them in for a cloud of smoke. Leave them in the sand, let my worries
go, and then I'll let you know. Oh yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay, I think I need a change of pace. Okay, I think I need a change of place. Cause this shit is getting silly. This shit is gonna kill me. Wanna run just like Achilles. Need a new city, need some new titties. You and you come unzip me. Build a new temple, come with me. Evidently it's simple. Get a little hippie chick, have some little hippie kids. Find them snorting pixie sticks. If that's a life you wanna live, or go outside and make it then.
I hear them calling, yeah.
But I ain't hearing it, I'm out here trying to take it slow. But
I ain't stopping, yeah.
Cause I ain't got the time, yeah, I got somewhere else to go.
And I'm just trying to get somewhere. Yeah, I'm just trying to get somewhere. When I get there, I'm gonna ditch these clothes. No more suits and ties, only real people. When the time is right and the sun is low, I'm gonna let you know. When I get there, I'm gonna ditch these clothes. Gonna trade them in for a cloud of smoke. Leave them in the sand, let my worries go, and then I'll let you know. Oh yeah, I'll let you know. 7 in the morning, in this world there's nowhere that I gotta be. Palm leaves as my awning, getting high Shangri-La, now I'm living free. 7 in the morning, laying down with my girl in the canopy. Palm leaves as my awning, getting high Shangri-La, now I'm living free. When I get there, I'm gonna ditch these clothes. No more suits and ties, only real people. When the time is right and the sun is low, I'm gonna let you know. When I get there, I'm gonna ditch these clothes. Gonna trade them in for a cloud of smoke. Leave them in the sand, let my worries go, and then I'll let you know. Oh yeah, I'll let you know.
Crawling out of the flop house, I saw the mayor stealing my junk. I doff protest, citizens arrest, now my body's in his trunk. Where's the shadow government when you need it? Where's the shadow government? It's a bad, bad world. It's a bad, bad
tables. Cain and Abel, bruh. I put the pussy perpendicular to amateur. You can't contest the cash and class of my curriculum. I'm down and dirty, man, you call my ass Caligula.
That's my hypothesis. This beat is just so heavy, maybe that's why I be dropping it. My fan base just keeps growing, now my show's like a metropolis. And girls get so horny, they charge at me rhinoceros. Gentlemen, come and take up by your medicine. A sedative, feeling better in your element. I'm about to lose it, Gary Busey on this rodeo, cause y'all just trying to poach about these treasures out my fishing hole.
Watson, Sherlock Holmes on the phone. He said he needs some help, too much cocaine inside his dome. He said he needs it out. He said he needs some clout. He said he needs a better ride. His bad habits are going south. School bus, I'm sleeping, passing out at the bar. Fat pockets of pills, I call them Roseanne Barr. Lock my truck like my women, free, fancy, and large. Then I grab a guitar, panty discharge.
I ain't even mad at it. Keep it up with all your bad habits. Talking like it's so tragic, I ain't even mad at it. I ain't even mad at it. Covered all your bad habits. I ain't even mad at it. Everybody talking so tragic, I ain't fucking mad
This one over here with okay.
You remind me of a song. Got it on an old cassette. Sounded like an angel singing about a pain in her chest. She sees the future in mysterious ways. She's starting
She came from Greece. She had a thirst for knowledge. She studied sculpture at St. Martin's College. That's where I caught her eye. She told me that her dad was loaded. I said, in that case, I'll have a rum and Coca-Cola. She said, fine. And in 30 seconds time, she said, I want to live like common people. I want to do whatever common people do. I want to sleep with common people. I want to sleep with common people like you. Well, what else could I do? I said, I'll see what I can do. I took her to a supermarket. I don't know why, but I had to start it somewhere. So it started there. I said, pretend you've got no money. She just laughed and said, oh, you're so funny. I said, yeah? Well, I can't see anyone else smiling in here. Are you sure? You want to live like common people? You want to see whatever common people see? You want to sleep with common people? You want to sleep with common people like me? But she didn't understand.
She just smiled and held my hand. Went to Plaza Barber Shop, cut your hair and get a job, smoke some fags and play some pool, pretend you never went to school, but still you'll never get it right when you're lying in bed at night, watching roaches climb the wall. If you called your dad, he could stop it all here.
You'll never live like common people. You'll never do whatever common people do. You'll never fail like common people. You'll never watch your life slide out of you and dance and drink and screw because there's nothing else to do. Sing along with the common people. Sing along, and it might just get you through. Laugh along, even though they're laughing at you and the stupid things that you do because you think that poor is cool.
They'll bite you and never warn you, look out.
They'll tear your insides out. Because everybody hates a tourist.
Everybody hates a tourist, especially one who thinks it's all such a lie.
Yeah, and the chip stains grease will come out in the bath.
You will never understand how it feels to live your life with no meaning or control, and with nowhere left to go.
You're amazed that they exist, and they burn so bright while you can only wonder why.
Went to Plaza Barber Shop, cut your hair, get a job, smoke some fags and play some pool, pretend you never went to school, but still you'll never get it right, cause when you laid in bed at night,
watching roaches climb the wall, if you called your dad, he could stop it all, yeah. You'll never live like common people. You'll never do what common people do. You'll never fail like common people. You'll never watch your life slide out of you and dance and drink and screw because there's nothing else to do.
Been driving around from one end of this town to the other and back, but no one's ever seen us driving our Econoline van, and no one's ever heard of our band. We're push it all down into the clay. Half believing there will sometime come a day someone gives a damn. Maybe when the concrete has crumbled to sand, we're the Mesopotamians, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, and Gilgamesh. The Mesopotamish sun is beating down and making cracks in the ground, but there's nowhere else to stand in Mesopotamia, the kingdom where we secretly reign, the land where the invisibly rule as the Mesopotamians, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, and Gilgamesh. This is my last stick of gum. I'm gonna cut it up so everybody else gets some, except for Ashurbanipal, who says my haircut makes me look like a Mohenjo-Daran. Hey, Ashurbanipal, I'm a Mesopotamian, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, and Gilgamesh. We're the Mesopotamians, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, and Gilgamesh. Hey man, I thought that you were dead. I thought that you caught. No man, I've been right here this whole time playing bass guitar for the Mesopotamians. We're the Mesopotamians, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, and Gilgamesh. We're the Mesopotamians, Sargon, Hammurabi, Ashurbanipal, and
Driving home from my meth lab, realized something had changed. Looked in the sky, saw with my eye the moon was following me. Where's the shadow government when you need it? Where's the shadow government? It's a bad, bad world. It's a bad, bad world. Sifting through the confetti, I picked up my broken phone. Looked in the crack, somebody waved back, just sitting on their somebody throne. Where's the shadow government when you need it? Where's the shadow government? It's a bad, bad world. It's a bad, bad. Up the library steps, up the library steps, up the library steps, up the library steps. Here comes the library steps, crawling out of the flop house, I saw the mayor stealing my junk. I doffed protest, citizens arrest, now my body's in his trunk. Where's the shadow government when you need it? Where's the shadow
What's happening? How we doing out there, guys? Can you hear me? Am I coming through? Testing, testing. All right. Man, crazy week. How are we hanging in there? Hopefully all right. A lot of stuff going on. Man, just heard about not just, but I was out of town this weekend. But man, the judge assigned to the Ghislaine Maxwell case, kid and husband shot. Something fishy going on there for sure. Maybe probably just a signal being sent to anyone who is pressing up against the big machine like this. But yes, this is the last joint session, having a Fruitlands for modern times. If you get to San Diego and you like local breweries, you need to check out Modern Times. They have some of the coolest facilities around town when facilities are open, when tasting rooms are available. They have one that is just chock full of weird dinosaur stuff. They have another one that has a bar that is all VHS tapes, which is a great conversation starter. You're sitting there with a buddy having a few beers. You're looking at every movie that existed in the 80s and 90s, and talking about VHS tapes is quite fun. But we should waste no time because I want to get to as many people as possible, being that this is the last one. Well, just until we switch to the forum format. There's a lot of reasons for that I've talked about. I get a lot of people saying they have things to share, but they either can't get on live or they can't join live because they work, or they're just too nervous. And so we're going to do it in a forum way where we have a specific thread for these joint sessions, and it's going to allow me to create a more kind of well-produced solo show-ish in conjunction with the things that are in those forums. And also it'll come out in our normal format, the podcast, which people are all plugged in on RSS feeder readers already, and they just don't want to go to the website to watch these once a month YouTube videos. Plus, I would like to stop paying for Zoom rather than paying for that forever. And I would rather get away from any kind of thing that needs YouTube. Like this kind of does need YouTube. That's where I upload it later to be watched. So it's kind of good to get away from that too, because I do think we're going to get shut down at any time. Not really that worried about it, but it will happen. And it's best if there's just nothing that requires their system. All right. So if you are listening on the YouTube side and you need the link, go to thehighersidechats.com. It is right there. I've added it on social media, Twitter, Facebook. Hop in there. It's the last thing I posted. I don't post much anymore. So you can hop on there and get the link, join on the Zoom side of things. And then when you're on the Zoom side, there is a little button, I believe at the bottom center of the screen, that says raise your hand. And that is how you raise your hand to let me know that you are interested in getting on the air. And we don't have a call screener. So I ask that if you call to get on the air, that you're bringing me something, either a personal paranormal experience that's interesting, some kind of local corruption. We love diving into those microcosms, or just some personal research or ideas, conspiracy stuff. All that's great. So you can talk to us about how this whole pandemic thing is affecting you and your little town. Those are interesting calls as well. That's how we learned there was potentially going to be a meat shortage, was initially from a caller. And let's see. So we got some hands up. We got Jeff right at the top. Let's see if Jeff can get in here. Oh, I guess, my bad. I got Blue Witch. We've had Blue Witch before. Let's have her. I'm saying unmute. You do have to press that button. All right. Blue Witch, how you doing? Can you hear me, Blue Witch?
Yes. Can you see my dog?
I can.
This is my guide dog Zen, and I have no makeup on, so you're not going to see me.
All right.
And,
Either, but heck, I'm out here.
okay, this is me and my dog. This is us. Hey, everybody. Hey. And I just want to say thank you so much for all you do, and you're amazing. And I feel like, you know, in terms of what's going on the planet, there is a large ritual going on, and they want to move us by fear, and we're all confused. So that means the truth is not being told to us. And I just, these are very uncertain times. And I think now is more important than ever to make sure like we do things like this, where we get together and we laugh and we talk about our favorite beers and, you know, just spend time communally, because they don't want us to do this. They want to keep us separate. And
that was my big anxiety when this whole thing started, is I can easily shut off the computers and just come here for work and then just enjoy life offline. But when you create a situation where there's pretty much a computer between all human interactions, that's when I start to get a little nervous, start to get a little anxiety. People are afraid to meet in person. It's risky to do so. It's much easier to pay online and order your food online and, you know, just Zoom with your friends. You know, why do we all have to get together on Friday night when we can all Zoom? I don't like that attitude at all, but here we are.
So I want to thank you very much for this platform being available, and just keep up all your awesome work. And I love you have wonderful questions that you always ask, and very thought-provoking, and just I just want to thank you so much. You just rock tremendously. So thank you, Greg.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Anything else? Am I moving on?
We're moving on.
All right. Well, Blue Witch, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Short and sweet. She is so kind. Too kind. All right. Let's see. So going back to the top of the list, well, we have Jeff. I said Jeff before, and I don't know how I called on the wrong person. Maybe someone jumped in line at that particular moment. Let's see what Jeff's got for us. Jeff, how you doing? Can you hear me, Jeff?
Unmute. Okay, here we go. Start.
I know. It's a process. Yes. How you doing, man?
There we go. I see me. I think I need to flip it. All right, there we go. I was just in the middle of eating some pizza here. I didn't think I'd come up so early.
Sorry to interrupt, man. How's it going?
Last time I didn't have the video on, so yeah, I'm glad I got in this last show here.
Yeah.
I'm in Dayton, Ohio, you know, heart of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of wanted to add like what I think about this whole thing. I mean, I've been watching your show for a few years now, and I just it's definitely opened my mind as far as like I just have a totally different outlook on life, and like it's just opened it up as far as like what I realize as far as like how the system runs and all that stuff, and I just look at things so differently now. And I just feel like I'm, you know, in our lifetime things have just gone in like a, you know, so fast as far as like with technology and how things have gone so like changed so drastically. And I just feel like our generation has really been like distracted. Like they've really distracted us our whole lives while they've been, you know, behind the curtains doing whatever they do. you know, and that's like something that I think you've opened my eyes to, really, as far as like how that runs. And like I just think our generation, it's really been amped up in a totally, you know, like they've really mastered it, you know, in the 60s and 70s, and just like amped it up in our lifetime. And like I said, we've been distracted our whole lives with, you know, art and whatever it is, you know, music, movies, you know, games, whatever it is, while they've been behind the scenes just doing all this stuff. And I just think now is that time where we're like, everybody's really coming to this realization and this, like, you know, actually stepping to the plate and deciding that, like, hey, this is enough, you know, like that's why you see all these, you know, the riots and all this stuff that's going on. It's like, this is like an information age where everybody's like getting all this information from all over the place, you know, like I'm sure you had time where, you know, we only had like 12 channels at one time, or, you know, only 2 newspapers or something like that, where everybody's information was coming from just a couple of sources. And now it's just everybody's all over the place, you know, like that information's coming from all over. So like people are even more divided, and that's what they wanted too, you know, like to have even more divide throughout the, you know, the country. It's just what, you know, like that's where like it's kind of a fine line of like being individual and being one of everybody, you know. I think we all kind of want to be individual, but we all have that collective moment where we're just like, you know, we're all empathetic for everybody and all that kind of stuff, you know, like.
True. Well said. There's definitely a massive influx of different news channels and sources. And of course, the problem with that is there's a source for everybody who wants to stay in their bubble. You can listen to news from the perspective that you appreciate and not have to hear any other opinions that conflict with that. And that becomes a difficult thing because we forget how to have real world conversations with friends and family that we might disagree with. It's just it's a slippery slope that we're going down. But I guess I would ask, if you know, went through this process a couple of years ago, how do you feel like that process has served you now? Because yes, a lot of the stuff before was about distraction, about these campaigns that have maybe gone on for a long time, or a bunch of dealing behind the curtain. But there's not a lot of stuff that was going to affect your life from morning to night in the way that this whole thing has. So, I mean, we get hit with this pandemic early 2020. Obviously, I think more people are seeing more aspects to it the further it goes on, and all the policies that are being enacted and how they don't necessarily always match up with, you know, public safety. It seems a little strange, but what do you think this is all about? Having been tested the last couple of years and been getting your conspiracy sea legs going. Now, well,
that's the funny thing is, like, you know, the more that I've watched your show, I've kind of like decided what I am more into. You know, I'm not into the, you know, Bigfoot kind of stuff, or not even UFOs as much anymore. You know, I don't know. I'm still kind of in question of that, but you know, I'm not into it as much. I'm more into the like intellectual. You got me onto the philosopher that's Alan Watts.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable. I mean, his mindset. I mean, I just like you know, kind of more intellectual stuff like that. You know, I feel like we're here to learn. You know, and like I just like hearing more different voices. That's another thing I was saying about the, you know, this, I was going to say about this whole pandemic thing is like, you know, we're all meant to learn. And like, that's another thing that's bad about, you know, we as people have to like, it's good for us to bounce information off each other, you know, because I feel like I see people that, you know, get like in depression and, you know, or you get kind of isolated. And when you're stuck there in your own thoughts, it's so bad for you. You know, whether you have like, you know, dumb ideas or dumb thoughts, you still need to bounce them off your friends and like just laugh and let them, tell you that you're stupid or whatever, that it sounds stupid, that like things that we need to hear from each other, like it's, I think it's good to have this forum, to have, people that have different thoughts and, believe in different things to go and, enjoy that. I think we all need different avenues to enjoy things and enjoy life. Like the one thing I was going to say is that I've learned from your show is like, I have a grandson now, and like, I look at life so differently. Like I want to turn off all that stuff. Anytime I'm with him, I turn everything off and I'm just like totally focused on him. But like, I feel like I want to teach him like an old school way, like a 1940s, 50s, like living on a farm, like teach my grandson like how to do everything that I could possibly teach him, because I feel like that's what we're here to do, like teach each other things. And that's why I think you're so great, man. I've learned so many things from you that you've shared, and like that's awesome, dude. I think that's so great that we're able to share that and enjoy that with each other.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I think that's wise to try to get out of the digital age as much as you can, because it's just so much in our face. And of course, conspiracy material can get quite dark. So it is definitely good to have people to share your ideas with, especially like close people that you have that are able to talk about anything without being offended. And then, you can kind of have a little fun with them and try to keep it somewhat positive, because yes, this kind of material can get really dark and isolating. If you don't have anyone to share stuff with, it gets even worse, that little cycle of feeling alone. And it's a big part of why I started the show, because that's how I felt at the time. And I was just like, well, there's got to be other people. These guests I've been listening to, they've got to be able to have a platform that can work, and we can stop interrupting them with commercial breaks or talking over them, because some of these guests, their ideas and their theories on things are so dense that you really do need to give them like 8 uninterrupted minutes to explain something sometimes. And that was hard to do pre-internet, pre-THC, I guess, to a degree, but luckily now there's places.
I started listening to Coast to Coast, and that's what really pulled me into your show, was the fact that you didn't have commercials, and it was like that straight 2 hours of talk, and that's why I've been a member ever since. The fact that I can,
thank you,
that whole conversation, it's like, it is like sitting there, you're just having a conversation and you get that information. And like you said, you might be an hour and 20 minutes into it, and you hear that one thing that person really, you'll never forget that person said or whatever, I mean, I have those moments all the time listening to the shows, you just know when you're going to get that one little tidbit or something that you really hits home or something.
Sure, I appreciate that. And I'd ask you, what about a favorite guest? Is there someone that you hear every so often that you like a lot? Who's brought you the most knowledge, do you feel?
Wow, that's a tough thing.
Or a subject matter that maybe you didn't think was interesting and then became interesting.
I don't know. I was actually kind of wanting to know, do you know Zach Hubbard?
I do. Yes, I know the name Zach Hubbard. I believe he does a lot of similar stuff to Marty Leeds.
Right. Yeah, that's where I found him, through Marty Leeds, and he was kind of like had some beef or something, and I looked him up, and I've been kind of listening to him ever since. He's kind of like he's a pompous kind of guy, but he is really knowledgeable, like that's what, like I can tell he knows, what he's talking about. But that gematria stuff, it just kind of clicks with me a little bit. There is some kind of funny things that jive, that, it's different than Marty Leeds's gematria too. Like he has one where it's like ABC 1, 2, 3, and then you go like Z backwards and all that. Like he has all kinds of different ciphers or whatever that are different from Marty Leeds. So I've kind of like, ventured off to listen to different, another guy is, gosh, I can't think of his name. He does a lot of shows about consciousness, and he's kind of like a nerdy guy with glasses. It's like, oh, when he does his podcast, he's kind of like sitting in the room. Skeptico.
Oh, Alex Sakaris.
Yeah, I like his he, you know, the way he kind of like grills his, you know, his guests and all that.
I like that too. I like that. Who doesn't love a good like heated debate? It's not.
Right.
I'm not the best guy for it, but I do
Right.
love the way.
That's where you're the opposite. You know, you're friendly with the guests, and he just kind of like he does stuff just to dig on them on purpose, kind of thing. You know, sometimes.
It's kind of true.
Yeah, there's I don't know. I just listen to a lot of different podcasts and stuff like that I've, you know, kind of ventured off. But I don't know. I can't think of anybody off a hand that is really you know, the one that, like I said, when you mentioned Alan Watts, I've really listened to a lot of his you know, they have a lot of YouTube videos of his on where he's doing like his speeches or whatever.
Yeah, he's really
I'm
great.
not much of a book guy. I'd rather listen to that stuff on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. Alan Watts is great at synthesizing Eastern philosophy stuff for a Western audience. He's kind of like the, you know, the Cliff Notes of Buddhism and Taoism and stuff like that. He's great.
Right. And like that's why I like Ross Ben. Is that his name? Ross Ben.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the deeper, you know, kind of spiritual guys like that. You know, I don't know. Like I said, I'm more into that realm of, you know, deeper thought and kind of figuring life out more than, you know, some kind of crazy conspiracy type of thing. You know, even though I'm still into all that kind of stuff. You know.
Well,
because that's what got me into it was 9/11. You know, I mean, figuring out that, you know, the government just lies, and I just can never. Some people just can't accept that. Like they just, my mom is one that's always been one that's like, she just doesn't think the government would ever do anything bad, you know. And it's like there's so many people that believe that, and it's like, man, there's been things proven throughout time that are just you can't deny, you know. I mean, and that's what your show does too, you know. I mean, that's great. Brings it to light. Somebody's got to bring it to light.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. All right, on. So any parting words before I let you go? I got a bunch of hands up here I want to try to grab.
No, like I said, I'm glad I got in here and was able to be on the last call in.
Right on. Well, cheers. Thanks for all the kind words. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there in Ohio.
I'll hit a dab for you after I get this pizza done.
I appreciate it.
All right, have a good one. I appreciate it.
Take care. I like it. Hate to interrupt a man's dinner. That is one of the things I'll miss is the video, seeing people willing to get on a webcam, which not a lot of people are willing to do. A lot of people are more private, especially with this kind of a show, this kind of content. The fact that we've had so many people call in from work, so many people willing to do bong rips and stuff, it's quite fun. All right. Blue Witch says she's smoking a big fat indica joint right now. If anybody wants to hop in there. Just looking at the chat. Sometimes things pop up in here that I should address in between calls. I don't see anything yet. No questions in the Q&A. If you prefer to type your question, not that this is a Q&A, you know, it is about you guys sharing your ideas and thoughts and all that stuff. But you can just throw a little question in the Q&A. Someone asked how long these are. Generally 1 to 2 hours. We go as far as we can. That's usually where we get. Let's see. Someone else says I'm a hypocrite for taking the YouTube comments away. That's curious because I never promised YouTube comments. I never said that anyone is guaranteed YouTube comments. I didn't promise that. So I'm not sure what makes me a hypocrite about that. I'm just sick of dealing with it. And so I still produce the same show that you apparently know and love. And that show has not changed. So I think that focusing on YouTube comments is pretty arbitrary because this is a podcast that doesn't even really belong on YouTube, but we want to push everyone away from YouTube because it is a stupid place to get your conspiratorial entertainment. It doesn't make any sense. So people who have a real problem with the fact that there are no YouTube comments, start your own YouTube channel. You're allowed to speak, get out there. You don't have to do it underneath my videos. Who gives a shit? So not really bothered by that, but it is what it is. Someone asked if there's any news on Ghislaine Maxwell recently. Well, and it's someone who talked to me on Midnight in the Desert when that was happening. Yeah, obviously the thing with that judge is a big deal. That the female judge, some guy in a FedEx outfit came to her door, shot her son and her husband, and she was in the basement, so she apparently didn't get attacked, but that's a big deal. Seems like a message was being sent. Also, Chris Knowles has done some really great work on Ghislaine Maxwell, doing a deep dive into the house where she was found, into that whole area. Bradford, it's in New Haven, Connecticut. I thought that was kind of crazy. New Haven. I mean, from a synchronistic perspective, you got to hit that. But she was busted on World UFO Day. Obviously, Connecticut's always been a haven for the elite, but Crowley owned a house nearby there. And it's also the setting for a lot of Lovecraft material. So it's just a esoteric, occult hotbed and elite hotbed. So it's a very interesting place for her to be picked up from. But I don't think it's organic. I think the real deal here is that she's been in communication with the FBI for a long time. She agreed to come in, and she's going to name names because I think that they're going to do it in a very controlled way. They're probably going to name specific names that elements that she's in contact with within the government would like to do damage to. It's always political. It's always controlled. I don't think that we're going to get what we want truly, but we might get half of it. So let's hope that me and you and Ghislaine Maxwell and the FBI have at least some of the same enemies, because we might get some information on them. All right, let's hop in. We don't do this to hear me talk and ramble, but let's call in Humble Llama. Uh-oh. I think they left or something right when I let them in. Humble Llama had me all jazzed up with that name. CWRJ, let's bring you in. Hopefully we can get to the Humble Llama later. CW, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can, Greg. How are you, bud?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Give me 1 second. I'll be able to do my video. I just got home, actually.
Right on. Work day?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of that. I was running some errands right now. Dude, I'm glad to be here on the last little open chat. It's awesome. I feel kind of dumb for not doing it in the past.
Oh, it's all good. It's just a nice little supplemental thing we do around here.
Yeah, but I just remember having the opportunity a while back, and I was just like, I'll let it roll. I'll just listen. And now I'm like, man, I could have chatted with Greg a little bit more. But do that on.
A lot of people seem to be passing on these, but it's hard to get people to show up to a live thing. I understand.
Yeah, man. Well, I called in last show. We talked for a little bit, and I don't want to talk as long as I did last time, but I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of either the DMT or shrooms, or just how you can kind of endogenously produce these things. And because people think like it's not a part of what we're made of, you know. Right. The lungs, the kidneys, the liver, they all produce DMT, and obviously the pineal, but you can't really just extract that. So it's one of those things where you have to base it all off of what has been kind of shaman through the past. And psychedelics are one of those things where it's incorporated into like almost every religious background, or at least, you know, the big ones. And then you just start to understand it's been demonized for for very big reasons. You know, it's kind of the tools that could help really cause a ripple and help awaken people to a level that I think is uncomprehendable to our society. We've fallen like very far, you know. But you don't always just have to take it through an external source, because, you know, like salvia, I also did, just like how you had your experience. That was what I had, and I didn't even know it was pretty much DMT, or at least a cousin of it, until, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I did this back in like 2007, I guess. Did it with one of my buddies, and I had done it like 4 times in high school, and that was whenever it was very available, you know. And that definitely broke me through, but I just didn't think about it in the sense like it was that you were tapping into what's here, that that is metaphysical, that you don't usually tap into. I thought you were just tripping, you know, because that's what society has the parameters on how it's supposed to go, you know, or you have to be totally into like a religion to do it. And it's just, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the reason why like yoga specifically is such a powerful tool is because you start to understand like where a lot of these principles of living, you know, the 8 limbs of yoga. People think that it's all about poses or just meditating, but there is many aspects to yoga. But one of the things that is such a powerful tool is what is Raja Yoga, which was the original form, sitting like in your easy seat with your legs crossed. And essentially it's all about keeping your spine straight. And this is where it starts to cross over into like, you know, comparative theology and all this stuff, because you have 33 vertebrae to your spine. And when you're doing, you know, breath work, like what Wim Hof does, or, you know, any of these gurus that teach pranayama, which is, prana is your life force. It's like ether or chi. And when you understand that you can like elevate these levels, it's all your own energy. But with your breath, if you're breathing deep through your nose on both inhale and exhale, it's going to make your core start to tighten up and in, press your organs into your diaphragm to create space, but also pushes your food down. So it's literally helping with your digestion. But in tune, like your spine straightens to its max capacity. And then there's the 33 vertebrae to your spine, 33 years to Christ. You know, Christ consciousness, what happens, it's like the toroidal spin of the Kundalini spirit going up your spine to your crown chakra. And that's where, you know, the seat of the soul and a lot of the mimic or depictions of the pineal gland come in. And so people can, it's not about tapping into that all the time either. It's just when people demonize the psychedelic aspect of spirituality, it's not that you have to do those things to understand it, but you also can't say that it's not a part of that, because it totally is. And it's a part of our anatomy, literally.
It's true. I do love the guests who are able to point out how all those things link up. And it is pretty amazing. I've been trying to do more breath work myself, and it is hard to remember. But one thing that they always talk about is if you practice your active breathing instead of just automatic passive breathing and do it deeply, you actually are more active in your own life. Like you're kind of more attentive, and you can react faster. You're just not living passively, you're living actively, and it's done through a reminder, constant attention to your breath, because I think a lot of us go days, probably even weeks, without consciously breathing, and that's
right.
the first step.
Exactly. And you think about like how we grow, you know, in our generations over at least the last, like, you know, 80 years strong, 100 years, we sit in a desk, you know, of our building years, and you sit 8 hours a day in it, and you start to mouth breathe, which is the most shallow breath you can achieve.
Right.
And it's creating a rounding of your spine, and so then your diaphragm is completely closed off. You're not getting any air in, and you're also socializing or you're playing sports. So it's just a constant you know, and it's grouped together with Rockefeller schooling. It's hilarious. But you know, it's such a interesting thing. And how also, just to kind of tie this in, have you ever looked into like the ringing cedars of Lebanon? I don't know if I talked about this last time, but I know that you'll be into it.
Sounds familiar, but for people who haven't heard of them, let them know.
Well, okay, everything is frequency. And even when people chant, now, I'm not saying you should do this, but at the base level of what chanting is in like yoga, people say like you're opening yourself up to demonic spirits, like if it's the Christian take specifically. And it's like, yeah, you could be. That's why it's all about intention. But if you understand that you're a water bag that's full of chemistry, and we're an amplifier for energy, and if that's not true, then why do you like music? Right? Certain things will pump you up.
Yeah, it changes your mood almost instantaneously.
It literally causes an alchemical change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so hence like the whole, it went from 432 to 440 hertz,
right?
Which
right.
440 makes us pretty malleable. Like anything, any message can kind of seep in at that point. But when it comes to, just to kind of preface that, frequency, you can push that out as well. That could be in your mood, that could be a smile, that could be the way you like raise your voice. But also like with the chanting aspect, when you chant Om, which is God in Hindi, that is just, you're making your own like 432, your own frequency that you're putting out. Now, when it ties into the ringing cedars, the ringing cedars are oming, and they've been measured. They're literally putting out a frequency, and it's audible. You can kind of hear it on videos, but it's measurable too. And so what's interesting with that, it's all tied to the cedar tree, which has DMT in it, as well as, because it's like the coniferous as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of crossover with like the acacia bush and cedar and the stuff that's in Doctor Who. Oh, mimosa. Like they did the whole Lorax, and even before that, there's a bunch of mimosa and obviously mushrooms and stuff in a lot of animation in general. But you know, the mimosa specifically is enriched with DMT, and I didn't even know all this until I watched some videos, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, that I was kind of on that path of figuring out, like, you know, okay, if they're chanting, and that's like an amplifier to, especially if you're already doing this breath work, and at the end of it, you're oming, you know, over and over, you're rippling, you're essentially creating a shock wave to raise that kundalini, which is, you know, the snake going up the staff, if you want to say, right, all the way up to your crown chakra. You'll open up your third eye. And that's where, if you've had a psychedelic experience with like mushrooms or DMT, you hear things slow down, or even a near-death experience, which I've had. I've gotten in a really bad car wreck before. But everything slows down, and you understand that your body's like going through a process of like, what do we have for this? Like, don't die. You know, it's trying to figure out, do we have something for this? And then eventually you get weightless. And I think that's where the spirit molecule comes in, because that's your body getting ready to die, so it can take your 21 grams to the next thing. And so you hear it too. There's like a ringing sound, like a chime, like a Tibetan singing bowl, right? So that's what those things are. That's a ohm that they created in matter. without their voice. They just figured out how to resemble nature.
Yeah.
Well, we mimic nature in all things.
I'm with you there.
So, yeah,
there's so many different ways people get focused on the entheogen, but it is not the only access point. I totally agree. In our modern culture, it's tough to dedicate the time and energy it takes to soberly get to those places. We don't have that kind of discipline, but it doesn't make it less valid. I'm totally with you.
If people don't understand, like dark chocolate has theobromine in it, and that is it's a psychedelic. It's just a mild one, and that's what like Mesoamericans were using because that's where it predominantly grows. So, one entheogen is not going to be totally across the board for everyone because it just depends on climate and where like your lineages had access to this. Like certain places, most places, mushrooms will grow everywhere, because it's like majority of the soil is like mycelium. So it's just one of those things where it's not across the board with everyone. And some people have taken it like super far and definitely more cult aspect, but it's just an interesting thing to look into because you start to see, that's where you start to see everything bleeding in together. You really understand that everyone kind of understands this, but we've been essentially shaman to sleep.
I'm right there with you, man. Cheers to that. And
yeah, thanks, man.
You got it. People are getting a little antsy in the chat, it looks like. So
all right.
I appreciate everything you're bringing to us, but I do need to kind of try to get as many people as I can in on this last one.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I will catch you in the member section, bud.
You got it, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for bringing the heat.
Thank you, bud. Bye.
Good call for sure. I do like all that kind of material, obviously. Let's see. We got a bunch of hands up. I am very humbled and thankful that people have decided to show up on this Monday night. I got Lewis. Let's see if I can get Lewis on here. I know some of these people, they had their hands up for a while and it's a lengthy thing. So I don't know, but let's see if we got him. Lewis, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can. So just everyone in the Discord has said I kind of sound like you, so I don't want to make it too confusing.
That's all right. Cool.
But I just wanted to say thank you, man, for like everything that you do.
Yeah. No problem.
Is there any way that I can see my own camera? Bring that up.
I'm not quite sure. There's towards the top right, you should see speaker view or gallery view. If you click on that, it should put us side by side for you.
It doesn't matter.
So you got the Studio Ghibli little guy up there.
Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff going on there, right?
Yeah, very much so.
But I really wanted to say, like, I appreciate the way that you interview people. Like the fact that it's a conversation and not just kind of like you say your thing and then I'm going to come back at you and try to prove you wrong. Like, I feel like that's how so many of those things go. And it's refreshing to hear that.
Thanks, man. It's definitely something I thought about in the beginning. It was part of the soup that I was trying to create. But it's as much about the format as it is about me, just because so many shows, if you're stuck with commercials, what can you do but take a break? If you have to be on the air Monday through Friday, you're definitely not reading these people's books. I go on some shows that are still trying to do a traditional radio formula as a guest, and sometimes the host gets my name wrong. I just recently did one. They were like, "Carl, it's great to meet you." I'm like, "All right, this is going to go fun." I don't mind. I don't really care, but it's like, people sometimes need to sit and ask themselves, why are you doing something? If you don't care enough to know my first name, why are we here? Like, not from a place of ego, but what are you doing? Isn't this supposed to be fun? This is most people's side job at best. And it's like, you don't have to do radio interviews if you don't want to. So sometimes I just think it's quite goofy. You get too many cooks in the kitchen. If you have a booker and then a different host and a different production person, I mean, sometimes I'm envious of having a full staff, but that's how it's like. I book my own guests. There's no way I wouldn't at least know their name, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for staffers, I need a job. That's actually something I was going to talk about real quick is, so I don't want to go into my whole story just because I don't want to take up too much time, and I would like to hear everyone get the chance to speak on the last one.
Sure.
But long story short, I think I'm probably a targeted individual of some kind. Back in 2017, I started getting into the conspiracy stuff, and then, long story, like very long story, shortened to a few seconds, is essentially I was talking online to people. My mic started to cut out. My mic started to like turn off my computer and stuff like that. And then the cops showed up at my house a couple times, and then I end up in the hospital like for 2.5 months, mental hospital, obviously.
What did the cops say when they showed up? Why did they say they arrived?
I mean, would you like me to go into the story a little bit, and then if it goes too long, I can try to cut myself off?
Sure. I mean,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. You're giving us breadcrumbs that are quite interesting. Sounds like you've been through the ringer. And yeah, I'd be curious, if that happens, your computer starts acting weird. That's one thing. Police show up. Now that's a whole nother thing.
So essentially what happened was I had taken acid before a couple times, but I had gotten into the researching and like I had not gotten into the conspiracy sphere yet. And then as I started to get into that, the next time I take acid, it all just kind of clicks in my head and it just comes together, but in a way that I couldn't formulate it. Like it made sense to me, but it's similar to the guy you had on who was talking about his friend who took him 5 years to get back to like our version of reality. It was kind of like I had this idea of what was going on, and I think a lot of it was probably correct, but I had no way to verbalize that to my family, especially. So my family was like freaked out. They're like, "You're acting weird. You're saying weird stuff." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, do you not see? Like, there's some crazy shit going on." And so yeah, the first time the police were called, it was definitely my parents, 100%, because I was yelling at them. I was like, "We're literally under control by the fucking government. Like, how is this not a problem?"
Yeah.
And they didn't want to hear it at all. So they called the cops on me. Cops show up. Instantly, I'm just like, "Look, you can go home, man. There isn't a problem here. I'm not a violent person. Like, we're not going to have an issue." But then the second time they show up, my parents didn't call them, like for sure. They swear to me they never called them. So they show up, they they come in, they're like, "So this is the second time we've been here in the past couple nights, man. Like, is everything okay? We got to make sure your thoughts are clear." And I was like, "What do you mean my thoughts are clear? Like, how do you know what I'm thinking? You're just a police officer who got a call." So then a couple more days go by. I don't shut the fuck up. Like, I didn't get the message, apparently. Like, I kept talking. I kept telling people online. I kept talking to my parents. And I guess like either the police or like the psychiatrist that my parents had been talking to behind my back decided that it would be best for me to go to a hospital and get evaluated. So the third time the police show up, I was literally just in my room. The cops show up. I see the lights, but no sirens. By the time I get down the stairs, there's already 3 cops in my house, and they've got dogs, like German shepherds. They're like weird thing. My whole family's Jewish. They were talking German to the dogs, which is a normal thing. Like they teach German to German shepherds, but the police were also speaking German to each other, which I found very weird. So anyway, I just like, they're like, "You have to come with us. We need to make sure that your thoughts are clear. We're going to take you to the hospital and we're going to have a doctor evaluate you." And I was like, "Oh shit. No, you're not. I'm not okay with that. That's not happening." So I book it out of my house. They send the dogs after me. The dogs, obviously catch me. They're faster. Then they handcuff me to a stretcher, put me in the ambulance, wheel me down to the hospital. This is the regular hospital, not a mental hospital. They keep me in like a small, like 4x8 room for about 4 days, I think. And that entire time, they take my blood like twice or 3 times a day. And at this point, like, I'm fried. Like, I can't think, I can't sleep. I'm so paranoid. Like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. And I'm 17, like almost 18. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is even happening? Like, I have no idea what's going on. so I'm telling people this. I'm like, hey, could I just like go home for a little bit and get my thoughts together? Because like I have no idea what the fuck is happening. And they're like, no, we don't think your thoughts are clear. We're waiting for a spot to open in the hospital. I was like, what hospital? I'm in the hospital. They're like, the retreat. So if you'd like to look this up, it's called the Brattleboro retreat. I'm kind of doxing myself a little bit here, but it's a pretty famous hospital. The movie Sucker Punch is based on it.
Oh, shit. What was the? I know the movie. What did you say it was called one more time?
The Brattleboro retreat. So I get sent there. The first day I get there, they drug up the shit out of me. I'd never been medicated before. They put me on a pill cocktail of 12 pills in the morning, 8 pills at night. Most of it, like I didn't learn what it was until afterwards, but you know, like the basic antipsychotics, you know, Depakote, lithium, a couple other ones. So then I wasn't hallucinating before I get to the hospital. But then as soon as like a couple days go by, they keep me in a place called ULSA. It's solitary confinement. It's known as like the ultra low sensory area, I believe is what it stands for. But it's solitary confinement. It's just a small room with a window that's barred, and then you just sit there and you stare at the wall. And so then the real shit started to get bad. Like then my mental state kind of decayed over time, obviously. That a combination with the drugs and, you know, my paranoia, I couldn't sleep at all. But I got so tired to the point where my body just gave out on me. So I would go into like this weird scenario where like it would be sleep paralysis. Like I couldn't move, but I also couldn't sleep. Like I couldn't just not be awake. So I would just be there for hours at night thinking to myself. The good side of this is that I've had a lot of time to go through my theories, and that's kind of like why I think I was able to come back to our reality in some sense. Is like I felt like I had 10,000 hours to think to myself every night. So instead of 5 years to get back to reality, it just took me 2.5 months. But I was in there for a couple months, and then I get out. I couldn't go back to school. I couldn't do anything. I was too paranoid to even leave my house. So I finally like work up the courage to get out of my house again, and I work at Domino's for a couple months delivering pizzas. And I'm like, okay, things are going fine. Like, I guess maybe I just had a mental break, and that's what it's like. Like everyone around you wasn't me, was telling me I was acting weird. So like maybe it was just me, and I didn't realize it. But then I take the money that I had saved up to go to New Zealand, and I go to New Zealand for a month. I get back, and the cops. Like, so I get back to the US. I was talking to people in New Zealand about conspiracies because at the time I thought the problem was kind of localized to America. I thought that yes, there was conspiracies all over the world, but the problem was with American corporation and American control over the rest of the world. Obviously, I realized that the problem is a little bit bigger than that now. But I was telling people about shit I probably shouldn't have been talking about in New Zealand. And I got back and I got tackled outside of my local supermarket by a cop for solicitation was the official charge. I asked someone for a granola bar. I think that was my only interaction with anyone there. I still have no explanation. Like no one, but yeah, same thing. Back to the regular hospital, small room, send me back to the retreat. I'm there for 3 months this time, I think. But this time they kept me on a permanent stay unit because now I'm 18 and now I'm like legally committed. And
holy shit.
Yeah. So I was like, oh shit, like I don't think I'm gonna be able to get out of here. They kept me in solitary for a while, but then every time I would get out of solitary, they would like, because they work you back toward the milieu is what they call it. They work you back toward work, like socializing with other people. But every time I would get back toward that, like someone would come up and attack me, just one of the other patients. But then they would send me back to solitary. Like that makes sense. Then they moved me up to another floor where no one was under the age of 50, and everyone there was just cooked, like rocking chair all day, kind of cooked. Like everyone there was just gone. I was the only person there like my age. I was literally just turned 18. And I mean, to this day, I truly believe that if my parents hadn't fought for me to get me out the second time, I'd probably still be in there.
God.
But yeah, that's
doing all right now, maybe it seems.
well, the reason why I ended up joining the community in the Discord at least was because my cousin got thrown back into that, or not back in for the first time. He got thrown into that hospital a couple months ago, and it felt like it was related to me somehow. But I it could just be like I feel bad for him. But
dude, that is so sad, and it is something I always think about because it's also kind of textbook. The idea of conspiracy rabbit holes, sending a person through experiences, much like you described, it is not super uncommon. You know, I've talked about it on the show before, but I found out I had an uncle who died before I was born. My mom had a brother who died before I was born. I didn't even know until I was 30 years old. And it was related to being gay. Well, he got caught for entrapment, or what would you call? He got basically entrapped by a cop for, I guess, attempted sodomy or something. You know, back in the day, cops were like catching people being gay, and you could like get into the system for that. And that's the kind of thing that happened. And they sent him to a mental facility, and he wasn't the same. My mom says he came out and he couldn't really work. He got electroshock therapy, and you know, it fried him a bit, and he couldn't really get his shit together once he got out. So he staged a robbery of a bank to try to just get back in the system. This time they're like, I guess he wanted to go to jail, and they're like, you'll go back to the facility. And he was like, no, I'm just done, and killed himself so he wouldn't have to go through that again. And like,
I mean, like,
nuts.
that's tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
but like, just so you know, like, I get where he's coming from. I would much rather be dead than go back there.
Right. It's so sad that my mom is, as cheerful as she is, has this sibling situation that like I was totally shielded from. I end up doing a show like this, interviewing people like Robert Guffey, who wrote Camelio, about his friend who got brought up into the system in San Diego here and started getting harassed with all kinds of exotic technology. Obviously, it's, I guess, pretty well known to the audience at this point that one of my best friends went through a similar situation that was really uncomfortable and semi-public. And it's hard to not feel some responsibility for that, hosting this show. And like, obviously my best friend's going to be a part of what I'm doing and like listening. And
right, it's like you tell people shit and then bad shit starts to happen to them, and it can't help but feel like your fault.
Yes. And that's why I've always tried to keep the show somewhat positive. Yes, we must look at dark stuff, and the truth is dark, but I didn't make it that way. And we should, I guess, still be able to have a laugh about it or something. Somehow we have to not let us take us to those places.
I've actually been working on some stand-up comedy, like some conspiracy related stand-up. So hopefully we can get there soon.
Yes, I like it. And it is just really important because it's important to have a worldview that serves you. And so if the truth is too much to handle and it's sending people to these dark places, it almost looks like, well, why would I look at that stuff? Because when I see people look at that stuff, that's what happens to them. So I try to fight that as much as we can by saying, no, our worldview should serve us. It should make us better people by knowing the truth, but it's just still hard.
I completely agree with you, man.
I'm really sorry for all that shit. That's really rough.
I mean, nothing you can do about it now, right? But I mean, that's the reason why I want to share my story and why I wanted to come on tonight was just, for one, my own safety, right? Like, now people know what happened to me, and like, if I disappear, there will be people who knew. Because another part of my theory is they try to isolate you, right? You lose your friends, you lose your family, and then you have no one, and that's when they take you. It's like, at the time, I had just lost my best friends. I had just lost a lot, like a few close. I had burned some bridges with some close family members because of this shit. And then all of a sudden they take me again. So I was kind of feeling that again, like, you know, one of my only friends is my roommate. And then aside from that, nobody would know I was gone. So it's like, you know, I just want to make sure that, you know, for one, my safety, but for two, there's thousands of people who go through similar things to what I went through. And I just want to make sure that if you have someone in your life right now who is going through some sort of mental break, because don't get me wrong, those facilities do have some value. Like there are certain people there who want to help, but they don't know how. Like the problem is our
They have for
mental.
helping are just bad for it. I mean, I can't say, the medicine is very harsh. And if you're trying to do good, but your only real tool is to prescribe medicine that is very harsh and altering the brain chemistry,
Chemical
can't do
lobotomy.
a whole lot. Yes, that's what I'm saying. You can't, your hands are tied. That's a sad position to be in too.
Yeah, but that's just like if you have someone in your life who's going through a tough time, before you take the easy route, which is in my opinion is sending them to a hospital, it gets them off your hands. It has the state deal with them. Before you do that, exhaust all your options first. Take them out into the woods, talk to them. Just try to figure out where they're coming from first. Like that should be a last resort. If you really feel like you can't handle it, then yeah, sure, maybe they need that's kind of support where someone else can deal with it. But I just can't recommend sending anyone to a hospital like that. And that's really what I wanted to say. Like I wanted people to know my story so they can have some weight behind it. But like really just if you have someone in your life who needs help, try to help them before you send them to help, like before you send them to get help them first.
Mm-hmm. Amen, man. I'm with you.
But yeah, before I go, let me show you guys my puppy because I'm proud of him.
Yes.
He's a cutie. And then I'll take my leave. Come here, bud. This is Xavier.
Xavier, good name. Right on.
But yeah, do you mind if I take an honorary THC bong rip for you before I go?
Go for it. I love it. First one of the night. Hell of a bong. It's a long one, guys. Woo! Cheers, man. Thanks for calling. God, what a story. It's sad. And it's not surprising. I've heard many of those stories. I've gotten emails from people that have had similar stories. I've had people write me emails or actually write me letters to my P.O. box, not emails, from jail. That's happened a few times. I don't know exactly the logistics of listening to a podcast in jail or if they only listened to it before they went in jail, but it is just really sad to hear those stories of people who go down a rabbit hole and get lost there. I mentioned I have a buddy whose story is a little similar to Lewis's there, and it's been kind of popularized because he was mentioned by Tracy Twyman in a video that I don't think she ever meant to be public, but of course you send it to some people who are media figures and then something tragic happens and then they decide that it's now public. It is what it is, but private details about my buddy's life were thrown in there and people to this day think there's more to know. There's something to know. There isn't. Me nor my friend ever met Tracy in person. All our interactions are online, and he was going through something similar to Lewis. Like, people think there's more to know. There isn't. This kind of thing, the shape of it, the details might change, but the shape of that happens to a lot of people who enter this world, and that's just what it is. And I really hate hearing that shit. Sometimes people, will rag on me for doing a show that seems a little light, having a guy on about light or about eyesight or having a woman on about hydration. And it's like, this stuff can get to you. It cannot be pedophilia and Satanism week after week. What more do you need to know? We've done those shows. We will do them again. There's always updates in those areas. But some people get addicted to the dark, crazy shit, and that's not healthy. And it's not healthy for me. I also feel a responsibility to put out things that will improve people's lives. Will knowing the truth improve your life? I think so. But also, so will good hydration. So will sunlight. Sorry to bore you with things that are more practical and actually will serve you. It's difficult, but that sort of thing is factored in to some of the decisions of shows that you might think don't fit or just aren't crazy enough. And, you know, when it hits you personally, when you hear stories from listeners, you don't want to feel like you're perpetuating something negative like that. You just don't want to feel like that if you're a normal human being. So, all right, we're going to some more calls. Tough act to follow, let me say. Bonfire, I see you there. I'm bringing you in. How you doing? Bonfire. You're muted. I can't. You gotta press. There you are. How you doing?
This is exciting. Hold on. Man, I was gonna grab a joint. Forgot one. Should I go grab one?
Feel the need? Why
This
not?
is so great. Yeah, hold on. Does it matter if I'm in a house full of marijuana?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, hold on. Yeah, hold on.
Wow. Wow.
Cha cha cha. All right. All right, so this is my first time on.
Okay.
I'm very excited. It's been I've listened to you for like I don't even know, like 5 years or something. So I just want to say hi from myself and Zagadin.
Woo! Wow. Impressive. Yeah. Impressive. I can
Not
tell.
mine, just my homies.
That's cool. That's cool. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers.
So what is on your mind?
Well, you know, I just wanted to keep it a little bit light. There's a lot going on right now.
Indeed.
I was gonna ask you, so I was supposed to go down to South America to go do some medicine, and I know you also had those plans.
Yes.
It's not happening anymore, I imagine. Are you still planning on going or holding off, I'm sure?
I actually let her hold on to my deposit for next year. We're going to try to just wait a full 12 months and see what happens. I don't think it'll be any better based on what I'm hearing from people I trust. But I was like, hold on to the deposit. I want to be locked in if there's any possibility of going.
I feel you. Yeah, I've been feeling the same thing. And I was just so excited to hear about what you might feel about doing medicine and what your outcome was going to be. So it made me bummed out to hear it's probably going to get held off.
You know, it really is a bummer. I really doubt anything's going to, you know, fix the deafness in my right ear. But I have heard people tell stories that if you just ask the shaman, he'll do what he can. And the medicine fixes us on a metaphysical level that can just spill out into the material, the physical body. And so I at least enjoy the fact that I have something really extreme to test, and then an audience in which I could be honest with if like that story actually manifested. But me and my wife were also thinking about going to that next stage in life and having kids. And Gordon was like, definitely tell the shaman that. Because if you're planning to get pregnant, the shaman is going to do everything he can to like set that stage correctly and have an impact. And so that was really exciting to me. I liked the idea that, okay, we're going to stay sober and clean up our diet for this thing. We're going to go, the shaman's going to fix us up 1, 2, and then we're going to come back, get with the next stage of life. And that'll always be part of the story that we went to the Amazon as a farewell to partying. Not obviously it's a medicine, but you know, to that life, you know, because you're not going to do it after you have a kid, or maybe you should change your habits a little bit. So it is disappointing, but we're just on a 12-month pause, and hopefully we'll start that whole plan up again, and we'll see.
That's beautiful. Well, I hope you know that there is always time after children to be doing medicine journeys, and to not hold back from that. But it's cool that you guys are going to go down together.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but it'll happen.
Yeah. And you never know. I think that the hearing thing, it could definitely potentially have a breakthrough of some sort with that, because I've seen that myself, like a physical healing in person with medicine. And I mean, it was so apparent. Like I had like physical wrenching on my body, and the shaman came up and totally released it from me. And it's a possibility. I didn't think it was, and then it happens to you, and it's a little different feeling you walk away with.
Yeah, I can imagine. So obviously you're not going on yours, but I didn't realize that wasn't going to be your first trip. You've done it before, huh?
I have, yes.
Wow. How many times have you
gone? I think I've sat 4 times, 3 times, 2 nights in a row.
Wow. So once you do it, there's definitely the feeling that you want to do it more times. Did you take a South American trip both times? Or I mean, all time?
Actually, no, I did it in the States. It's funny because I went to Peru years ago, like 6-7 years ago, and I was going to do it. And it just never really happened. I had some like medical emergencies pop up while I was down there, strange relations with my partner at the time, and it never happened. And then I ended up coming into full circle and doing it here in the States with people that I've been initiated, if you will, by shamans down in South America. I've been spending time down there. So that was my experience, was coming here and doing it here. Kind of randomly. I wasn't expecting for that to happen.
Cool. So I guess if I had an opportunity to do it here, would you suggest I just do that, or should I wait for the full experience?
I don't think it's about here or there. It's about the community that's holding you in that space and the person who's leading the ceremony. You definitely want, you definitely want someone who knows what they're doing, knows the Icaros way, like all the songs. It's very important to have like that connection to spirit. And I mean, you can find sham places that are in South America too. I've had friends that went down and got put in the back of a laundry room in Colombia, like with a shaman with a gold chain and a gold watch. So I mean, there's all experiences in all realms, both North and South America, I think.
Fair. Yeah, I just thought maybe the physical pilgrimage aspect was something to be fun to tack on, but maybe it's not. Obviously, it's not important as the medicine itself. Maybe it's not necessary either.
Yeah, I think if you have the calling to do it, that you should listen to that. And if the opportunity arises and it feels intuitionally like good people with good intentions, medicine made the right way, the right set and setting, I don't think one should be. There's so many people who should have access to medicines like this and don't have the access to get to South America, and especially all of us right now don't have that access. And so I would say stay open to communities here in our home states that might have that available, which here and there, near and far.
Yeah, good advice. The only real circles I've been invited to are in the Hollywood Hills, which is a really intriguing thing, but I just don't know that's the setting that I want to be doing this stuff in.
Yeah, I mean, you could be surprised.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Doing what I do, I'm going to be just a little skeptical of that particular geographical location, but obviously good people everywhere.
Yeah.
Right on. Any parting words before I let you go? I got a grip of hands up I'm going to try to get through.
Yeah.
I love
get some hands.
Yeah,
it was so great to share.
For sure. Thanks for calling and have fun in that environment you got there.
Take care, man. Cheers.
Very cool. Another first. I don't think anyone's called from a grow of that size. Man, very cool. Someone noticed how roasted I am. Yeah, I'm cooked. It was the weekend. I was outside all weekend. And I don't I'm not a sunscreen guy. So when all my friends are lathering up the sunscreen and I'm the only one who looks this red, I feel a bit silly, but I try to go no chemical and I'll just deal with it. So yes, I'm thoroughly cooked. It's all right. That's how you know I had a good weekend. All right, we see Humble Llama's got the hand up again. Humble Llama tried to call on earlier. Now we got a call back. The anticipation, it was killing me. We finally got it going. I know it takes a while before I call on someone, so they might not be ready right at that moment. Llama. I believe we've had the llama here before. I don't know what happened. I hope he didn't get disconnected again. All right. Well. All right. I guess we're going to go to another call, but he could obviously pop up at any minute. That's the thing, is if I promote someone to the panelist position, which is what's required to share a screen, I think a pop-up happens on their side that's like, hey, you've been invited to hop in. And then that pop-up will just be there. So if I call in someone else, maybe the llama will join us at random. Maybe the llama is listening to me say this right now and thinking that joining at random would be a better idea. Let's call someone else. Salisbury steak. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Oh, snap. What's up, dude?
What's happening? How are you?
Hold on, let me kill this Bluetooth.
All right. What's happening with you? What's on your mind, man?
All right. Sorry, bro. This is the first time I've been on Zoom.
It's all good. What's on your mind?
Not much, man. Just calling in from Texas. Longtime listener, plus member. I wish I had my green Hollow Earth shirt that I got from you here.
Thank you.
So I don't know how it is out there in California. I know you're dealing with, okay, and let me first go by saying I'm not a right or left wing in anything, but I know you have a lot of like very liberal minded people out in California. When you are going out a lot, are you getting a lot of like, I don't know if you wear a mask or if it's required out there, or like what kind of flack you're getting? I mean, I was just curious about the different places. Here it's, I don't know. I'll let you say, you speak first.
Well, it's definitely required, and I wear one when I go out. Generally, if we need groceries or something, my wife is pretty accommodating about she'll go out and do it because she knows how much I don't like it. But I am not interested in getting into a confrontation with every minimum wage worker in Target who now sadly has to be a bouncer on top of just trying to do their job. It is insane that grocery store workers who probably feel very exposed right now, but they have to make this money even though it's chump change. Now they also have to police people about their masks and hear people pontificate and soapbox about, I don't want to do it. And it's like, yes, I get it. But I, again, like to look like my worldview serves me, and nobody looks good when they go viral arguing about masks in a Walmart. Like, I just don't think that that's the approach that you should have with waking people up. It's not going to happen that way. And it doesn't make any of us really look good. I definitely don't think there's a need for masks, but I'm also not one of those people who is like, well, I can't wear a mask. It's not good for me. It's like, come on, you're going in the grocery store for 30 minutes. If you don't think masks are not necessary, wear something like a bandana that is barely there. That's what I do. I wear a bandana, so it's real easy to just pop on, and like, it doesn't restrict my breathing. I'm fine. It definitely makes me not browse, you know, because I am slightly like, I got to get in here and just get out of here. But there are people working 8 hours a day with that thing on, sometimes in the hot sun. And so it's like, I'm just like, I don't need to have that fight with every Tom, Dick, and Harry I meet on the street. And I can suck it up for the people who are working 8 hours a day with those things on, because I'm lucky enough to work from home and this doesn't really affect me that much. So I see everyone's point, but I'm trying to just be low friction in the world when everyone is so tense, because someone's going to get shot out there for.
I completely agree.
So anyway, sorry, no, man. How are you feeling out there? What's your stance?
Same thing. I don't, to be honest, I hate to put myself out there like this. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. Like from jump, everything about it, the whole virus, I think it's a total sham. And I could be totally wrong. I don't know shit about shit. And I believe that about everything. You know, I'm just saying from what I've read, and I've done a lot of research since it came out, I honestly believe that it's all constructed, you know? But anyway, and I'm the same way. I don't want to cause any friction. I don't want to add to the fear that is already so much fear out there.
Right.
I don't want to add to that. And it's, I don't know. It's just sad. What worries me though, is that when I look at these statistics that say, you know, if it is real that 1% of 1% of people are dying or whatever, that everyone is so quick to walk in step with what we're being told to do and give up all these rights and all these liberties, I guess they're called. But I just don't understand how if you ask people, 90% of the people, if you say, do you think our government lies to us? They're going to say yes. Yes. And I say, well, what about, you know, you don't think they would lie about this? And people are like, oh no, they would never lie about something like this. I mean, I just don't understand the disconnect. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's not my place. And like you said, I don't want to cause friction. I'm done trying to wake people up. You know what I mean? It's just, I just want to get along. I just want everybody to be happy. And, you know, the whole hippie love is the answer shit is just how I'm trying to live life, you know? I mean, I'm serious. Dude. Like,
I agree. It's very important now more than ever when everyone is so polarized and so on edge. I definitely want people, you know, obviously no one's perfect, but my goal is for people to look at me and like, oh man, everybody likes that guy. He's nice to everybody. I wonder what he thinks about this. He seems pretty calm. And, you know, then I would be willing to share what I think about this kind of stuff. You know, assuming everything I said wasn't already on the internet, but you want your worldview to serve you and you want it to look good on people. Nobody looks good, you know, like I say, standing there soapboxing about, you know, look at all these sheep. I've seen a few videos like that, and you get more flies with honey. It's not a good approach. It's not a good look. And yeah, most people are going crazy.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak over you.
Oh, good. No, good.
Nobody wants to be beat in the head with anything. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. What I wanted to ask you about is, I don't think you've mentioned it at all, and I think it happened since your last joint session, is that the Wayfair scandal. Okay, now real quick.
Yeah, how about that?
What I saw, it almost seemed too perfect. Like literally having the kids' names as the names of the items they were trying to sell, and happening the day after Maxwell was arrested. It all just seemed almost too perfect. It perfectly lined up, in mainstream media not covering it all that stuff. It just seemed like it was a too perfect conspiracy to be real. But everything I researched on it looked like it's pretty legit. And then of course Snopes, or whatever they're called, denied it and said, oh well, we asked them and they said it wasn't true, so it's not true. And then, but it's really didn't get covered at all, and I haven't seen that much about it since those first couple of days. But what do you think? Have you done any research on it at all? Heard anything?
Well, probably just like you, I saw it, and I'm glad you said that. I felt like it was too perfect as well, and it was going too viral also. That's the other key component. And so I was skeptical of it, but I was also like, well, I do think there is a real synergy between child trafficking, international child trafficking. Hey there. Yeah. Wow. What a segue. What a segue. No, but there is a link between that and retail, the global retail companies. Where are these companies? Like you go to the mall, where are they getting their stuff made? The third world, you know, all that stuff. They have to have shipping from there to here. And we had Kate Spade, that suicide. And then her husband came out wearing that weird rescuer's mask with the red scarf. And
he had that mouse mask on, didn't he?
Yeah, it was the mouse from the rescuers. It was basically.
Oh, okay.
But what is that movie about? It's about rescuing a kid from like some evil people. So it's like, why did he wear that mask? He was probably instructed to. It was probably like, hey, we killed Kate and you know the deal. You know what's going on. So
show him that you know what's going on.
Yeah, come out with this mask on to let us know that business as usual will carry on tomorrow and we don't have to come back for you.
Yeah, keep your
I think that just really happens. So it bubbled up to the surface then for sure. And then Les Wexner, Epstein's buddy, they bought a shipping route together. They bought planes together. And Les Wexner owns like half the mall. He owns Victoria's Secret, Express, Bath and Body Works. Like he owns that big conglomerate of mall stores. So again, we have those two things so close to each other. So when I see Wayfair, which is a company that has the same access to these shipping lanes and areas and the third world, and you know that about them, and then they're so big that something like this could easily hide within it because there's such a huge company selling so much stuff. It was a little bit on the nose, but I also read something on Reddit that kind of freaked me out, where somebody said that they worked for Wayfair in a distribution center, like a call center. And when they'd get customer service calls, they had a premium support team that would handle any purchases over 10 grand. So if someone calls, it's very, right in the handbook, page 1, if someone calls about a product and they paid more than 10 grand, they need to go to the upper tier support. Do not help that customer. So this stuff really could be hidden in plain sight, and you could definitely have a network doing that through that mechanism. But I also think it's a little bold and a little too obvious. And the way that it went viral makes me think that it was purposely thrown out there, because what is the thing they always try to do is make conspiracies look ridiculous. They'll put it in a movie and they'll say, oh, you mean the whole world's like the Matrix, buddy? Yeah, okay, that's how it works. It's like they really do that kind of stuff. They'll put, CIA, MK Ultra projects and Stranger Things, and people are like, oh yeah, they made superheroes. It's just, it gets really weird with that stuff. So they like to throw out things that people will attach to, and then they'll look stupid for engaging in a conversation that maybe that's real. And I think this was like one of those things. Everyone starts talking about it, and then Snopes says, which I'm sure they did a real deep dive, didn't they? And they probably called Wayfair, hey, did this happen? Yeah, they had it that day. They just, real investigation there. I mean, on such a serious matter. But yeah,
well, their CEO is like a Federal Reserve, not the chairman, but on some Federal Reserve board too, I heard.
Okay, that's going to make me skeptical for sure. That's going to make me skeptical that maybe there's some truth to it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, man. I just think I've been looking up all this stuff about, like the Hollywood elite and all the different, I don't believe any of the QAnon shit. I think that's the total fucking savior complex. Get that shit out of here. But no offense to anybody that loves it, but I can't listen to it. I'm not going to wait for somebody to come save the day. You know what I mean? I don't, we're the ones that are going to have to change anything. And that's why I go back to what I said about it's scaring me that everybody's so lock and step with everything that's what we're being told, because I don't know if it's going to get any better, Greg, and I don't think it is. And this is the first time in my life where I've honestly, I've always been into conspiracies and into stuff like that, and actually researching them, not just, I listen to your podcast. Actually, your podcast is the only one I have ever paid for, so kudos to that. But
thank you.
Yeah, man, it's great. But I just don't. I don't think it's gonna get any better, man. I think we've kind of we hit the tipping point. You know what I mean? Where like I don't think that if something was gonna change, it would have already happened. I mean, I'm not gonna take the vaccine, and you know, I'm sure some people aren't going to, but I don't even think that matters at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I worry that you might be right. I think it matters. I mean, I'm not going to be taking it either, but I don't know what the consequences of not taking it could be. They could be pretty severe. You might not be able to go to a grocery store.
It's gonna matter individually for us. I'm saying I don't think it's gonna matter as far as like if that's gonna change anything on a global and a large scale. I think that they have their cuffs in, and it's not gonna they're not gonna let go. I think once they saw that everybody after the first lockdown, everybody just kind of coalesced that was it. You know, they were like, we got these people. It doesn't matter, or we got the majority number that we need. You know,
Yeah. I was so worried about how quickly people just followed the orders. And I said very early on, one of my tweets out there back in March is, once everyone's inside, when is a virus gone? Because honestly, what we know about conventional medicine, even if you believe the official paradigm, is like AIDS isn't gone. Like things aren't gone. They might get under control from a conventional perspective, but we still think those things exist. You can look up, there are Black deaths, you know, people who die of the Black Plague still every few years. Like there's a couple, like
there
things.
was a case in Texas earlier this year. Yeah.
So what if we like locked something down? If we, for a virus, it's like, so does it have to be 50% gone, 80% gone? It just doesn't even make sense. It was a scary precedent to set from the beginning. And then once they got us all inside, it has been hell trying to get things back. And
yeah, oh, go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. I'm here all the time.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I like to listen more than I like to talk. I just don't want to hang up and be like, oh shit, there was something I wanted to tell him. But what was I gonna say? The best I've heard it put as far as the whole mask thing, and is that because in Texas, like I go into the store, I have literally a ripped off shirt sleeve, like a t-shirt sleeve that I just kind of wear around my neck, and I just slide it up when I need it. And but the best I've heard it put is, you can use anything for a mask because it's not about health, it's about compliance. You know what I mean? It was like, man, it's so true and so fucking sad at the same time.
I've seen it too, and I fully agree with you. And I also think that that's why if you're not really afraid of it, it doesn't matter for your own sanity what you're putting on. And so it should be easier to halfway comply enough to just get you through the day without a bunch of roadblocks. It goes back to some of those shows that I've done with people who are all concerned with the straw man or the corporation that is, you know, when you're born, they fill out the birth certificate and it creates a corporation version of you. And then your driver's license is in all caps, and that's the corporate version. And you represent that. You know, there's those people who are obsessed with that kind of perspective. But then, you know, you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, my car got impounded because I got pulled over and I don't do a driver's license and I don't give anyone my home address and I don't sign tickets. I don't represent that corporation. And yeah, they locked me up for 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, wait, what? Like this, so this doesn't serve you. What is good about that? So like, yeah, I guess I'm a real bitch because I got a driver's license and I've just, you know, been cucked through the system. But
no, I get it. I mean, I'm the same way, and I've deep dove into all those conspiracies, and I've gotten obsessed with every single one of them. I have a real obsessive personality, and the only thing I didn't get obsessed with is QAnon and flat Earth. I just couldn't do it. I tried, but I am super obsessed with Hollow Earth, man. I wish you did more shows. Like, I mean, Harry Hubbard, Agnew, and even though like I don't believe in any of the stuff that Brooks Agnew says as far as like his politics, I'm into his Hollow Earth shit. And but I don't want to change the subject, but just real quick, Joseph Farrell, by far my favorite guest. I think he's amazing. I love his stuff, and it's nice to have that educated at Oxford byline when you're talking about the stuff that we talk about. You know what I mean? People can't really give him too much shit.
Yes, when he was on the conspiracy farm, they kept throwing that out. I listened to their interview with him, and they definitely kept throwing out, oh, it's really great to hear confirmed from an Oxford scholar, these things we're saying. And it really is good to have that. It's like conventional people, they want to believe people with credentials. They're looking for credentials. Well, here you go. Like, I've interviewed some doctors, some people with PhDs who don't even think the viruses make us sick. So it's like the idea that there's only one idea is so backwards. Like, how can you police the internet to get rid of anything that disagrees with the CDC when some of these people are PhD doctors or people who worked at the CDC and have a different opinion? Like, we can never go to a mono opinion on anything. That's scary territory.
That's why I said I don't know shit about shit, because every time the old adage that the more you learn you don't know anything. But it's like I'm always open to have my mind changed. That's why I like shows like yours, because I like that you give your guests, let them tell their opinion too, and not try to force or fit your opinion into it. You know what I mean? You let them talk, and then you I don't hear you having your view changed in a good or a bad way. I'm just saying, but you allow them to give their part. Dude, real quick, sorry, just don't forget. Whatever happened to that Cracker Jack Don Marshall? Was that his name?
Oh yeah, Donald Marshall.
Whatever happened to
that?
Is he? Have you heard of him? He's bomb.
I haven't, but he kind of, he harassed me, not in a serious way, but he kind of harassed me online for a long time after that interview. Fuck you. It's just, he was like, I
thought you were pretty nice to him.
Yeah, so I think he got a little drunk during that interview. He definitely probably had second thoughts about some of the stuff he said, because he was like, oh, so now it's all coming back to me. He did say, like, he'd come back to me a week later and like, oh, they tortured me at the cloning center. They said, don't let that interview go out or I'm going to get tortured more. And I'm like, dude, it's already in the pipeline, man. I'm like, what if it was live? If it was live, it'd be out there. I was like, so we need to just, pretend it was live. Like, I was like, maybe I already did put it up, but it was like right in that window. And it was just like, man, I think you're full of shit and you're just not happy with what you said. And then he just, for months on end, was like going to every word of the interview and then typing a response. And like,
he was beaver shit bonkers, dude.
Right.
Like, he was out of control.
You agreed to talk to me. He approached me. He had a representative who approached me, and I was like, yes, I've heard his previous interviews. I'll do it. And I don't know if he's done many since, but
I haven't heard anything about him. That's why I asked. I
also thought nothing he said on my show was abnormal from what he'd said in previous interviews. It was just like, what's going to get you tortured that you said here that you haven't already said? You just said it here. All the things he'd said in previous interviews, I tried to bring it all together in one interview, but he didn't drop anything new.
And if it's his clone getting tortured, who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the big deal, dude? It's just a clone.
Right. That's what you're there for.
Seriously. Exactly. My clones do all my grocery shopping. They wear the mask. They get the torture, all that, But, I'm going to let some other people get in. I appreciate it, bro. I love your podcast. Love your work. Hopefully I'll come to San Diego. We can puff down one day.
For sure. It's good talking to you, man.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm very much on his page with a lot of stuff. Liking the Hollow Earth, not getting into QAnon. He's a cool guy. And I do hope people are patient with me when it comes to guest selection and them maybe not liking a guest here or there. I had Angela J. Davis on, and some people went quite nuts and was like, I'm sick of this liberal trash. And it's like, whoa, I tried to be, at least I can't control what someone else says, but I was trying to be pretty nonpartisan and ask questions on behalf of more conservative viewpoints. And the other thing that bothers me about that is, well, what about when we have James Corbett, who would definitely be on the right, or Joseph Farrell, who definitely thinks more on the right? Walter Bosley has been on several times. I think the majority of my guests think from the right. I don't, but it doesn't really matter. I also like to structure the higher side chats in a way that it doesn't matter what I think really. Yes, I choose the guests, but as long as we agree that you like or you're entertained by the same people I'm entertained by, that's really the only thing that matters. A lot of people get skeptical about the logos I've used and stuff like that. And it's like, this is just an artist who did this because I needed something to put on a grinder and it was circular. And I wanted it to be, it's kind of a parody of masonry. You think a Freemason is going to be happy that I replaced the Grand Architect with my show, or that it says 420 on the clock, or that there's aliens here and pyramids here, or there's a giant archonic beast behind it? You think any Masons happy about that? So it's just a little silly sometimes. And I think you guys are spending way too much time trying to like find something on me. And it's like, I'm just almost in the audience with you guys listening to good guests. I like to let them do 80% of the talking. All I'm trying to do is get them to their most interesting material and get through it. And the only thing I think about is that the 1 and 2 hour break comes to a full, like we try to wrap up one idea before cutting to the plus show, but I'm not really managing what they say. And I'm just picking people I think are interesting. Not even that I always agree with. I just want to make sure we can look back in the archives and say there's no holes in our game. Yes, we looked at systematic injustice in the justice system against people of color. That's not controversial. It's not Black Lives Matter. It's not a political thing. We tried to, at least I tried to leave that to the side. That's based on something that's quite real that lasted a long time. So it was there way before Black Lives Matter as a movement was there. And I also think it's weird that conspiracy shows don't want to talk about systematic injustice like that. It's like, that's a good example of the fact that they don't care about any of us, right? Isn't it? The stuff they do to people of color that they're allowed to do because they know other people aren't going to raise a fuss, or the things they do to people in the Middle East or the third world or in any of the US territories, and the show we did about that, like they are way shittier to people who don't have advocates, you know? And the last thing they want us to do is stick up for other groups of people, right? Because they want to continue to test vaccines in Africa unless we say, hey, you know, that's fucked up because they're people too. That's really messed up. You would do that. You know, I don't know why some conservative listeners decided they couldn't handle me anymore because they've listened for years and I did one show that they didn't like on that subject. It's like, I just felt like we needed to do it so I could look in the archives and not feel like I was silent on something that I think is important. It's not the new direction of the show. I heard that, you know, but anyway, again, I'm rambling. We got people here. We got Glow Wonders, a real staple of the joint sessions. I do want to make sure people who haven't gotten to talk ever get to, but when it's the last one we're going to do, it is nice to check in with some staples. Let's see if he's on the old paper route. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, my man, how are you?
I'm good, man. Just I was picking up some newspapers and I heard this might be the last joint session.
Well, the last live one. I'm going to change to kind of a different structure where it is just more like a bonus podcast episode. And I'm going to have a forum thread that is basically a place where I'd like people to put all their thoughts and stuff that I will read and talk about in a joint session in a more structured way, because it's hard for people to tune into something live. People who are used to subscribing to THC in a podcast form, they don't want to go and watch this one video that's in a different format that they have to access a different way. It just doesn't seem like, you know, I could see the views. It's just not popping. People aren't really checking it out later. So it's fun to do. And I think that maybe in a different format type of way, using the forum, more people will be engaged with it. I've gotten a lot of people who say, I either couldn't get on because, you know, people were on for a long time, or they'll say that they were too nervous. And so if people have they can edit, they can self-edit and write things down. It'll be a lot more clear, and I'll be able to get through more people's stuff. So those are some of the reasons.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, overall, you look at podcasts like this, you're pretty much the only one doing it that, hey, Lucky, you're pretty much the only one doing it that I'm aware of, but I don't really listen to any other podcasts in this form but yours.
Well, I appreciate that.
Now, I wanted to be short because I know there's probably a bunch of people, but I have two requests.
Okay.
We got to get Xavier Hayes back on if you can track him down.
All right.
And we need some more Dean Dominic DeLucio.
Him I did contact and was like, hey man, it would be great to do another podcast with you. And he was kind of like, well, we did two and they were really good and I don't have anything else to add. Like, we went over all my Hollow Earth material. And I was like, I get that, but sometimes it's just good to check in with someone again. Maybe we'll say something a different way. I was like, I promise you I'll comb through those shows and I'll bring up different things that weren't brought up before. I'll work really hard to find more ways to approach it. And, he was down with it for a little while and we just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And I just knew it. I was kind of dragging him along. And I was like, hey, he doesn't really want to do it. And I get what he's saying. Like he told us his material. So it's like, just go re-listen to it, I guess. Some people, they don't always come out with a new thing. This is a hobby for him. It really isn't his job to talk about the Hollow Earth. But he was the best. He was the best.
I did learn of Corey Daniels from you, and I subbed to him. I like his opinions on stuff, but a lot of the times I just wish he would talk about his the archaeology side of things, the history of Arizona, and he dives really into defaulting politics, and
yes,
dives down to the political realm, and I get enough of that every day. So, but I do have a comment about COVID. So I'm up in Napa, and the Bay Area, we have quite a few cases, but not a whole lot of deaths. And just between my friends, we're aware of 5 people who we've had contact with, or our family. They've Lucky, put it down. They've 5 people have been labeled COVID deaths, but 3 of them were just really out of the question. I mean, one of them was a kid who shot himself in the head. Family took him off life support, COVID-19. Our other friend, car accident, life support, got taken off life support, COVID-19. So it's like that old saying, follow the money. And I think this is if you look into it, they get money for each patient, each ventilator, and each death.
Yes.
So I don't think it's as serious as the media is hyping it up to be, even though, just look at the media, right or the left. You can't trust any of the stuff they're saying, not even the weather reports nowadays.
Right.
But I just want to give my 2 cents on that, and I'd like people to know that, just in my small circle of friends I talk about this stuff to. In my town, we've had 5 people who were labeled COVID deaths, but it was other means. And one of them had a massive heart attack, got labeled COVID, and the family threatened to sue our local hospital, and they reversed the death certificate.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So it's fishy. And I honestly, I'll let it go with this because I know there's other people. I think at the beginning it was, trying to be safe about people's health. And now I think it's just gone strictly political. And that's what, the right or the left, whoever it may be, that's all they try to do. It's make stuff political instead of what's best for the people.
I agree with you.
But yeah, man, I'll talk to you later. And one of these days you need to come down to Death Valley and drink some moonshine and shoot some guns.
For sure. I love it, man. Well, good to talk to you again. Thanks for being such a big part of the joint sessions. Have a good one. Cheers. I love that guy. He's been on most of these and always is bringing something interesting. I love him because he's out there in Death Valley and he knows a lot about the stuff that I do think is most interesting, the underground stuff, the giants, the archaeology. I like the idea that there is a bunch of stuff here in the States that is fascinating, just as fascinating as Machu Picchu and just all the secret history stuff. And we don't have to go around the world to these exotic locations to find it. There's a lot of stuff right here under our own highways and malls. And he's a guy who kind of knows a little bit about that and is still off the radar. Another guy who knows a little about archaeology is the Martian archaeologist, another guy who's been here before. I see maybe 5 more hands up. I'm going to try to get to them. And they look new, but Martian archaeologist, he's been here before. Got to pay my respects. It is the last time. People love a callback. My man. I'm doing all right, all things considered. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. It's good to talk to you.
You as well.
I just got to tell you, man, I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying. I'm just out here trying, doing the best I can.
Well, we can all tell.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We really can. I just wanted to call back to a bonfire earlier, talking about the kind of bootleg sessions down in Colombia. And I was thinking, the back room of a Colombian laundry with a bunch of gold chain natives kind of sounds like a slow Tuesday in my old life.
I like it. I like it.
So, Greg, what do you want to talk about? What are you really into right now? What's the thing that you're chewing on?
Man, I'm really taking a break from a lot of stuff. If I'm not specifically working on it, I'm probably taking a break. But something that I recently purchased without talking to the author yet at all, it's on my list, but this book, Sand Talk, How Indigenous Thinking Can Save the World. The author is Tyson Youngkapora. And I'm interested in looking for books that are going to kind of pull things out of the unpublicized pockets around the planet that probably have good insight. A lot of indigenous cultures in their spiritual tradition have talked about this time. A lot of them are saying important things that would be really useful, especially if some of us are trying to break off from the big machine and pop that titty right back out of our mouth so we're not suckling on the system and instead do something on our own. I think we need to look at them for that as well. So there's a lot of reasons that I think, as the book says, indigenous thinking can save the world. And I'm kind of excited about trying to do more shows like that. Things that are positive, are not going to send anyone to the psychiatric ward, and are useful in these troubled times.
I can really appreciate that, Greg. And you really touched on it earlier. People get obsessed with the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
It has an addictive quality. And you find this also cautioned against in Buddhism. You can't get fascinated with the technology. You can't get caught up in the technique and miss the point.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole point of this journey is supposed to end with, well, how do you live a good life?
It's true.
Right? That's supposed to be the result. So if that's not what we're going for, then what are we really doing here?
Amen.
And so that's, I guess, my contribution. I always go back to Saruman in Lord of the Rings, His whole deal was he wanted to spy on the enemy and, figure out a way to beat the ultimate evil. But he just got obsessed with it and he ended up joining it in the end because he thought he could beat it. This kind of Sorcerer's Apprentice style scenario, I think, is ultimately the end of the technological search.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say indigenous thinking can really help, I've arrived at a similar kind of conclusion after going through some very deep study of the technological aspect of Philosopher's Stone and internal alchemy and all these kinds of things. And at the end of it, I really just kind of have accepted that there's an optimum level of human technological advancement. There's like a break point with human happiness
Mm-hmm.
and the level of technology that you have.
I can see
And
that.
I've accepted the fact that it's probably less than what it is now. That break point is farther back than we are now. And that in many ways, our ancestors deliberately tuned back the level of technological advancement.
Yes. But I also think, it also matters who is at the wheel, because the internet does not have to be Facebook, Twitter, Google, and YouTube. We allowed it to become that by putting our eyes on just those platforms and letting them track us all over the internet. And obviously they're the titans of the digital age, but it doesn't have to be that way. I like what Gordon White says about using the digital tools to go back to analog, setting up your community garden by finding other people in your community who are on the community gardening forum, stuff like that. So there's a way to reconnect with people using the modern tools that are quite useful, but building the world we want to see, building the real world we want to see, rather than the artificial layer that we're all pretty much obsessed with right now.
I see that is the way that a lot of people think about it. Here's my proposition. So let's just take the technological advancement to its logical end here. So if you can develop a system of technology, say the perfect system of technology would be something that is capable of operating at an over-unity capacity that responds directly to the intention of the user and manifests it in reality. That's the ultimate form of technology, right? I mean, there's nothing beyond that. So if you can create such a thing, who would have access to it? Who has the right to have access to it if it can impose its conditions upon local reality? So I think that you run into a real issue there, and the only moral way to end that is you have to have the highest morality people among you only have access to it, and they just kind of run the world on everybody's behest. And how different is that from just a God scenario? How different is that from what we already had?
Absolute power corrupts absolutely and all that.
Or is it even corrupts absolutely, or is it just that's how societies were organized back in the day? You
right.
know?
But it's a paradigm that you shouldn't set up because it's risky, because the person who moves into that position might not always be altruistic. So it's best to decentralize and to break things down into smaller regional governments so that no one has too much power. I think that's the only safeguard against that. And yeah, I wish we were probably back at a technological age that was more optimum for human happiness, but you just can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I guess at this point, the only thing to do is to try to take back the tools we have or use them for ways that serve us and serve the people around us.
Yeah, I hope that happens in a way that is well managed to the extent that it can. You know what I mean? And the only reason I say that is because the system itself was built for a reason by people who had a goal to use it, you know? And so the whole operation of the mechanism is tuned to benefit somebody, right? So no matter which way you come at it, from all the viewpoints we have, it's possible for the operators of the system to turn it to their advantage in a major way, right? And it's simply because you got to think about it like they're looking at it in 3 dimensions while we're running around on flat land. Mm-hmm. And that works on a number of levels. And so I appreciate what you're doing to like wake people up to the truth of the matter, right? Because until the truth is uncomfortable, right? And the real truth in this kind of stuff is that there are people who run shit and they have for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they know how to do it, right? And that is like the kind of ultimate thing that you got to come into it with is you got to have respect for, I guess, I wouldn't even want to call it the opposition, right? It's just that you have to really have a respectful viewpoint when you come at it, because there's real forces out there, you know?
Right.
And
isn't some of the goal to get outside of their management, to self-manage, so that it doesn't really matter what they do? If they want all their subjects to take a vaccine so they can go to Whole Foods, that can be their business. Because if we self-manage in small regional ways outside of their purview as best we can, isn't that what we're ultimately trying to do? Isn't that the way to get to human happiness and to kind of stop our dependence on that, so it doesn't really matter how they manage it, because they're not going to manage it for our benefit? It's an ego trip for them.
Yeah, I don't know how you interact or deal with a group of people who's built an incredible far-reaching system of technology and has a viewpoint that's roughly that of a religious zealot. Like I don't know how you effectively deal with it. People like that.
That's why I think you just got to ignore it, kind of. You got to get outside. Like, you can't ignore it if it still kind of owns you. So a lot of people are still quite owned. People are still quite dependent on, the carrot. So you're going to get the stick as well. So I think the goal, it's scary for me to even say, because I'm kind of hypocritical in that sense. Like, I'm not great at, the idea of like building an off the grid thing. That kind of scares me. It's a lot of work. The people I know who do it, I'm in awe of how much work it is to maintain. You have to have almost like 10 people to run an acre with maximum efficiency and self-sufficiency. And obviously you probably have to be outside of the United States. So there's a lot of changes I'd have to make in my life to really live like that. But I still think it's the best advice.
Yeah. And then what?
And then be happy.
That's the idea,
That's all there is.
Yeah.
We came here to have an experience. I think that's the thing. On one level, we came here to have an experience in a natural kind of a archetypical way. And then we also have this big machine that is inside the game that has learned how to run it. And I think we have to deal with that. Maybe part of the initiation is to get away from it, to realize that, yes, it's convenient for a lazy person to suckle at the system's teat and just kind of acquiesce to all the negatives. Oh, you're blowing up kids with drones overseas. I guess I can let it go. You can't let it go. If you really want to have the spiritual, school system that this is meant to be, I think you really got to say no. And unfortunately, the system is very persistent, and it's hard to divorce yourself from it entirely when you're born within it. But do I think that's the goal of spiritual evolution? Probably.
I agree with you there. And I would say that from my perspective, the thing that we're supposed to do is solve the problem. Like that's, I think that the unique capacity of human beings, I think that's probably why we're here, is as problem solvers.
How do you think we solve the problem, if not just to kind of stop giving it our attention and then letting it fizzle out? What do you think? How do you solve it?
I don't know. I think you probably got to get smarter people than me and ask them. But that's what you're doing, right? That's for sure. How do we solve the problem? Because we all have the knowledge that there is a problem. To varying degrees, we're all able to admit it to ourselves and to everybody else. But
maybe we go back
definitely
to the ways that got us here.
Yeah. And there's definitely a big problem. And I get the sense that when you look back and you have these legends about Atlantis and the cosmic war and the Tower of Babel and all this kind of stuff, I get the sense that the same people keep being reincarnated during the same time periods because you didn't solve the problem the first time. And so if we're here for it this time, it means we were probably here last time, at least for me, and we got to deal with the problem.
Right on.
And I thank you for putting together a good show with a good intent. And trying to solve the problem.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks for calling in. I'm going to try to get through the last couple of hands on this last joint session, but it was good to talk to you again.
You as
And
well.
stay safe out there.
Thanks, Greg.
Peace. That guy always brings something interesting too. Someone asked me what the necklace is. Well, this is the same old one I always wear, which is a orgonite pendant that a listener sent me. There's a couple actually. Different listener sent me this one. I believe it's good for opening communication, so I keep it on my microphone now. And the other one is on the advice of our good friend Ross Ben. It is quartz and black tourmaline, 2 items that are supposed to be helpful around computer frequencies and maybe help absorb them, and also need to be charged with sunlight. So that's the thing. Like, I have a few items around. I have these things, but I'm lazy, so they just sit on my desk kind of. So I was like, oh, why don't I get a necklace? Because I obviously will wear it out in the sun, no effort required, and it's going to help avoid those frequencies. Sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, what have you become? But Ross Ben did it to me. I think he's really convincing. I think he's really good at making some things that I used to feel like were very hokey and cheesy. And he's very good at bringing out the science that makes them seem sound. And so sometimes when people ask me, my friends give me shit about, you're wearing 2 necklaces now? All right, okay. Where does this end? I'm just like, listen to this guy. I got nothing to say. I cannot defend myself. Listen to Ross Ben, and then you'll understand. I just try to defer to the experts. But all right, we got 2 hands left. I'm going to try to get to both of them. We're over the 2-hour mark, but this is the end of the road. And I know more hands are going to go up, but it becomes perpetual, never ending. So anyway, I can't see this full name. Resilience something. I'll probably be able to see it here in a second. Oh, resilient solutionary. It just went away.
Greg.
What's happening, my man?
How are you doing, Greg?
Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm very well. My front camera sucks really bad. So
looking quite hazy in there.
It's hazy as shit in here. I really appreciate the session. It's sad that it's the last session.
Well, just in this type of format.
Of course, yeah. And I know you're going to make the format even better because that's what you do.
Trying.
I called in a couple months ago, man. I talked about a bunch of stuff. I won't keep with you a long time. I wanted to say that I really love you and appreciate you, Greg, and you're doing really good work.
Too kind. Thank you.
I earnestly love you. Like, thank you. And
well, man,
don't spend a lot of time on the detractors because, like, if you really break it down and understand the Hegelian dialectic that we find ourselves in, they only want us looking at the right and left paradigm. And that's why I really appreciate all your permaculture guests, the direction you're trying to move in as far as being us in the solution, because as human beings on this space, we have common sense solutions to our problems, and we really need to get back to looking at indigenous wisdom.
Yes.
I had a permaculture teacher, her name is Starhawk, and she's a Jewish witch, bro. and like growing up in the Midwest, as you know, in St. Louis area and around that, it's the Bible Belt. So witchy shit is kind of an inversion, right? Like, whoa, hold on, this is kind of witchy. This is outside of my realm. But what she explained is we all have an indigenous relationship with nature, right? And once we get back to that indigenous one-ship and symbiotic relationship, what we will find is we can do whatever the fuck we want, Greg. And so I appreciate the direction you're going in, the people you, and I told you last time we spoke, I really was thinking of having a podcast myself.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of work. There's equipment that you need. That's a lot of money. All these things. And I wanted to be focused on our solution, our collective solution. So European people and people descended of European culture need to get back to their roots, their indigenous roots of not being white. You're not white. White is a creation. And I will challenge all your guests to look into how white was created to make a permanent underclass and a permanent overclass, whereas we're all fighting amongst each other. And I also want to challenge, like Voltaire said, if you want to know who your rulers are, just know who you can't criticize. And we'll see a lot of this in the news lately about anti this and anti that. I won't even bring up the words, but you know what I'm saying. And it's impossible to be anti anything when you are that thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So,
I want to ask you a question though, because I do hear people talking about this. There is no white and black, and that's a social construct thing. And I understand that, but people say race is a social construct. And I think that is a little wrong because there are differences amongst different kinds of people. There are people who maybe are Irish and they seem to embody a lot of the archetype of that we think of as an Irishman. There does seem to be some stuff baked into where we come from that makes us the way we are.
it's a great question.
What do you think?
It's a wonderful question because there are differences between pigmentations and things of that nature. And I would challenge most of your viewers again and listeners to look up and see that the original Irish were dark-skinned people. So like the history that we have been told, we are been lied to over and over again. The parasitic forces that are in control right now, and you can call them whatever the fuck you want to call them. And you've had a bunch of fucking shows on what we name these people. But I'm asking the viewers as well as you to really dissect and decolonize the language we use, right? Because these are all categories to break us down and to get us away from the oneness of everything. So yeah, Europeans are different. Genetically, we know this from 5th grade science, Greg, that genetically pale skin and blue eyes is recessive, do we not? We know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why did they come up with the 1-drop rule in the United States of America? By law, they came up with a 1-drop rule is if you had 1 drop of black blood, what they deemed black blood, you were a C. A lot of people that I find on the right and left, because I have them in my family, I happen to be multicultural, have several different what they class as races in my blood. A lot of people on the right in my own family will say, well, there was slavery all over the world. There's been slavery since the Bible. Yes, but what you fail to realize is the form of slavery instituted in 1681 is when they really started these kind of laws. But the kind of slavery they instituted in this country was based on your mother's status, okay? So if your mother was a black slave, you were forever a slave. Do you understand how that works?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there was slavery in Africa. Yes, different tribesmen, not black men, different tribesmen of different nations in Africa sold their enemies into bondage, okay? But the way that they had bondage in those respective communities throughout Africa was not the same type of bondage that white men, European men, instituted by law in the United States of America. Are you following?
Mm-hmm.
So when your mother's status is based on slavery, you are going to forever be a slave. Not only that, when they let black people off of the plantation, they instituted black codes, all of the other things that were to create a different form of slavery, which we see today in the form of the drug war. We have 2.2 million people behind bars, most of them because of non-violent drug offenses. It's another repressive method. So again, we move from one form of social repression to the next. Poor white men get to still have their status, what we deem as white men, so-called white men, people who identify with whiteness. They still get to have some status because they're fucking guarding these men and women from the ghettos in the rural communities in these penal institutions. So like, we have to understand how the form of white supremacy and what white supremacy was created for in the first place. It was to divide the working class and poor people at its inception. Because prior to 1681, prior to the rebellion of Bacon, the Bacon Rebellion they call it, we all, Irish, European white women, European Scottish, European Dutch, it doesn't matter. If they were indebted to the fucking planter class, you were at the same strata as the African and Indian indigenous slaves of this Americas, and you all fucked, you all procreated, you all worked in the fucking fields. And when that rebellion kicked off and all those demographics worked together to go against the man made sure that they were going to divide us amongst race. And by 1681, you find misogynistic laws that started saying clearly in the law, and I challenge you all to look this shit up in the history and know your own history of your fucking country. You look that shit up and you'll see that that's when they started saying white people. That's when they started saying black people, okay? So legally, black is a distinction. Legally, white is a distinction. They exported that kind of caste system all over the world. That's why you'll find Japanese, Indians, look at who the untouchables are of India. And they're blue, black, they're dark-skinned people. This kind of caste system has been exported all over the world. Why? Because of what I brought up the time we spoke. Francis Cress Wesseling's theory is European pigmented people are the smallest demographic on the world. And because of that small demographic of people and white recessive genes, they're, whether consciously or unconsciously, they go into indigenous areas, take their land and kill their people because they need to protect their own genetic survival. So you can qualm about whether that's an actual thing or not, but we have seen the results of colonization worldwide. We have seen the results of taking us away from our mother, Gaia, who has sustained and gives life. And we are in the middle of a sixth fucking extinction event of mass proportions. And while we are distracted about these other issues, and there's a host of them, we may be going to extinct one day, not only the non-melanated people, but the melanated people of the world and all the fucking sentient beings of the world. Why are we not paying attention to this? We've completely changed our life for 4 fucking months over this COVID thing, right? Because of our own self-centered fears of losing our life, being sick, dying, but we're not worried about nanoplastics and shit in our fucking DNA, bro. So I have been on a complete rant. Greg, again, I appreciate you. You are an amazing human being. Very connected with you because of where you come from. We are the solution to all of our problems. We break away from this fucking evil satanic death cult, and we form what Derek Bros calls freedom cells, and we take care of one another, dude. No matter what your pigmentation is, we fill the fucking need and the gap, and we understand where we came from, so we can like forge a new future in a direction away from this demonic death cult, bro. I love you, bro. I've drank a lot of beers tonight. I've already started my joint session before you even got on.
Looks like
and
it.
I have been completely stressed like a motherfucker from being confined and inundated with all the bullshit fear. So I want us to look towards solutions as a group. I want you to remember not to worry about the fucking detractors. And I do need to ask you, because I did not listen to that one, was the Angela Davis that you had on the show, was that the Angela Davis of the Black Panther Party and all that?
No.
So I'm very confused about that. So that's why I asked. It was a white woman, correct?
No, a black woman. Well, an African American woman. But
okay,
it's not the same one. She's a law scholar, and she has written about prosecutorial power and how everybody's focused on police, but they're not focused on prosecutors, which are elected officials, and they don't have to explain what they do. They do it behind closed doors, and their decisions they have a lot of decision-making power, and it's a linchpin area that we don't focus on enough. The protesters aren't focused on, but if they pivoted to know a little more about the criminal justice system and focus some attention there, they might be able to accomplish some of the goals they want without looking directly at the police system, which is probably a little more difficult. So strategically, they should look in this other area. So she is not the same Angela Davis, but man, it is so crazy how many times I have said that. It's like the first thing I say in the wrap up. And I understand the mistaken identity, but a lot of people have lashed out in a very negative way and criticized me for having on a Marxist and are canceling their subscription. I'm like, but you didn't listen to that. Like, that isn't who that is. That's a totally different person.
Obviously, they didn't listen. That's why I needed to clarify.
Yeah.
When I seen that you posted it, I listened to maybe like 5 minutes. Dude, my life has been hectic and I've not been keeping up with your latest shows, unfortunately. And I was like, that really doesn't sound like Angela Davis. I'm very acquainted with the Black Panther Party for self-defense. I'm very acquainted. I moved to the Bay Area because these men and women were my heroes. Am I a fucking Marxist? Hell no. I have no fucking love for any of that communist bullshit, but I do have love for liberation. So we need to learn how to fucking differentiate that shit, bro.
It's true. It's a difficult needle for me to thread. And that's what I was going to ask you before I did let you go. I wanted to know who you think would be good guests in that hidden history realm, talking about race, talking about how black and white was a dichotomy invented to divide the working class from uniting and uprising, because I definitely feel that, I definitely think that they keep us fighting there, but who are the right people? Because I have to thread the needle where we're not getting with the woke crowd, we're not getting too off in liberal land. Like I've got to try to find someone who can talk about that deep, uncomfortable history, but without sounding like they're going to be hanging out in the Chaz in Seattle. I got to thread that needle.
Right. I want to challenge all your viewers as well as you. And I know you are the most, like, literally, you're one of the most progressive, minded, thinking, out of the box, non-melanated men that I know from the Midwest. And I want to challenge us about our language as well. Our language is where they got us, and that's how they keep us under their spells. And I want you to, let's go into the esoteric real quick, and I'll answer your question about the people. The language that we use, this English language, it's a dual mirrored language. It's the language of wizards and warlocks, okay? So when I tell you good morning, what does that mean to you? Good morning,
right,
Greg?
Good death.
Am I telling good morning? I want you to mourn? No, my friend, good rising. Good rising. So we need to be mindful of the language we use because we're still under the fucking spell of these masters. They stole this science. The science is stolen. So the people, okay, here's another thing. And I'm not trying to be offensive, but I need our European descended brothers and sisters to understand that many people that you have classified as black or Indian or whatever the fuck words you want to use, they don't trust to come in and have this kind of conversation with a person that is non-melanated. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure. Absolutely. This has been a challenge for me. Like, I want you to know I have tried, and I've definitely have gotten some feedback like not interested. And it's like, I don't really take offense because I understand, but at the same time, like, we got to get out of our bubbles.
So I'm going to tell you some white allies that will come on your show, and they're good people, they're good human beings, and they have educated our so-called white friends, allies, general public for many years. Jane Elliott is a staple, and she's still alive. Peace be upon her, and peace be upon you, and peace be upon every single person that listens to this message, right? Like, Jane Elliott is an amazing human being, and she's been trying to teach our European brothers and sisters about the ways that white supremacy works for a very long time. And you need to get her on because she is up in years, my friend. And she may not be here very long. And I'm not saying that to for any other reason that she's up in years, and that's a book of knowledge that we need to access. Also, Jacqueline Bevelor has wrote a very critical book about how whiteness was created in the United States. She's another European ally. Philip Shock Matthews has a YouTube page. This gentleman puts on the most amazing guests from the metaphysical, the realm of magic, where this magic came from, who this magic came from. This man,
that's what I want.
He is a wealth of information just because of who he knows and the guests he puts on his show. If you're not acquainted with his show, Greg, you should look at the Philip Shock Matthews show. He's amazing. He's very. You know what? I can compare him to your show because it's very well done. Okay, like, no other podcaster really like your podcast. I'm not trying to like blow a bunch of sunshine. I'm very grateful and humbled by you, bro. So check him out. He has a lot of people that he has access to because he's been doing this such a long time. I want to give kudos to James Corbett. I still have a problem with not answering my question about the John Birch Society. Some of the people he fucking hoist up on high levels are from the John Birch Society. So I have to shoot, but I love the work he does, and I give kudos to you for putting him on. Yeah, he's right leaning, but we need to learn how to think for our fucking selves outside of the left-right dichotomy. As again, decolonize your mind. Start thinking about the language that we use. Start with those people, man. You could always text or email me, at resilientsolutionaries@gmail.com. I think my name is up as Resilient Solutionaries. My actual real government name is Sean Carter. I'm from St. Louis, not scared for people to know who the fuck I am and what I'm about. I'm like healing, togetherness, and the love of Gaia, and learning who the fuck you are and where you came from, bro. Because that's the only way we're going to correct and be about the solution, because we're in the 6th mass extinction right now as we speak, and people are on bullshit. Like, stop being on bullshit and be part of this not part of the problem, but part of the solution. I love you, bro, and I'll let you go because I know you at least got 1 or 2 more calls, man. Thank you a lot, Greg. And if you email me, I'll give you, like I said, I got a list of books, whatever, bro, whatever you need, man. I'm here to support. I love your show, and I will be tuning in, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, man.
You have a good one. I appreciate you.
Yep. Yep. Peace.
Peace. Yes, maybe I should just have him on. It would not be the first time I had a listener on to synthesize a bunch of material that I couldn't access directly. You could say Shamanjineer was that. Shamanjineer would take like the work of Don Nance and Trevor James Constable, who had passed, these guys who I couldn't have on for one reason or another, and synthesized a lot of alchemical material based on the elements. I thought Shamangineer killed it every time. And, you know, maybe Sean Carter can come on and synthesize some of the material from those who might be too guarded to come on my show because I'm white. You know, I understand it's not comfortable, I guess, to talk about that, but people have asked me why I haven't had on some of these guests, and it's like they don't want to come on. All I can do is invite people. You kind of respect them for not caring about a promotional opportunity, not caring about reaching a new audience. They're like, no, I'm there for a certain audience and I'm not interested. And I just think what they fail to understand is that our audience is pretty diverse. And if they see conspiracy attached to the show, then if they look it up, they'll see that word bandied about. I mean, it's on my shirt. That's going to turn people off. They think Alex Jones, and they think that maybe I'm there to do some kind of Steven Crowder gotcha thing. I mean, I felt even Angela was a little guarded. Not that she doesn't have a reason to be. She still came on the show. That's what really upsets me about the feedback. Also, some people are like, oh, you just nodded along while she went through. Look, sometimes there's factors that you don't even understand or think about. Like when Angela said she was willing to do the show, she had to be gone at a certain time. Yet she didn't know how to work Skype that well. And it took a while to get it going. And I was almost like, we're going to have to just postpone this or do it a different time because we're running so behind that we almost don't have time to get a full show. Because once it's edited, that even cuts a little bit out. So it's not that I just nodded along. It's that I had things I wanted to make sure we got to. Like we had to get to prosecutorial power within an hour. We had to. It's the key linchpin of her argument, and it takes time to explain. So I wasn't willing to like just challenge her on one particular case because you thought like Rayshad Brooks, you know, maybe should have gone to jail. Okay, the point was that these aren't capital crimes. And somebody was like, well, she said that they should just be taken home. Isn't driving drunk serious? Yes. But what she's talking about is there was a time in the country, probably in Missouri, in my parents' lifetime, where you would get pulled over and they would just drive Farmer John home. You know, is that the end of the world that he doesn't have to go through this court process? And yes, I know if you continue to enable that behavior, people will keep doing it until someone does get hurt. But I think her point was just that that was never a reality for anyone Black. That was never a reality for an African-American person. Like, and in the worst case, they get killed by being pulled over. Like, yes, he did some stupid shit. He resisted the handcuffs and grabbed the cop's taser. Not smart. But I do just think that there is an argument that statistically, if that same situation was happening, there'd be a way that that guy could be tackled and again, I really don't even care about defending that one case. It isn't about one case. It is about a long systemic thing. I want to talk about systemic issues, and we can talk about how the prison system is corrupt, the criminal justice system is corrupt all the way through, up and down, also shining a light on the people it affects worse. I don't see why that's so difficult, but I don't know, just worked out strangely. And again, I do agree. I cannot spend so much time worried about the negative, worried about the trolls and that kind of thing. And I don't want to write off everyone who has a negative opinion of a show as a troll. I'm not trying to say that, but I should act like no one's listening. It's better for me. I just create better content when I think that there's no one listening and I'm just trying to amass an audience. You know, I would put on the best guests that I would want to listen to because I was trying to build an audience. And so now I feel like sometimes I slip into a mindset that I'm trying to manage an audience, that I'm trying to manage all the opinions that I hear. And that's why I want to cut down on those opinions. I built the show. The nature of a show being built is that no one was listening and now people listen. So they like what you did when you didn't have any advice. You weren't getting feedback. And I kind of want to get back to those days where I'm just throwing out wild stuff and the people who like it stick around. And I don't have to constantly qualify and spend my wrap up preempting some of the negative comments, because why even do that? All right, Arthur Campos, you very well might be the last call on the last live joint session. It's 9:35, 2.5 hours. I don't know. We're going to get to you for sure. Make it count. No pressure, but I hope you brought something to talk about. Arthur, can you hear me? I can see you, but you're still muted. You got to hit that other button there. There we go. Bam.
Okay, am I good now?
You're good.
Can you hear me all right?
I can. Hallelujah.
Cool. Yeah, man. I'm at work right now. I'm on third shift, so I just took my lunch.
My favorite
so
kind of call at work.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say I appreciate you and your work and everything, man. You're one of the most solid podcasts I listen to. And I like that Angela Davis show and Stephen Greer and stuff, man. I've never heard anything too outrageous or anything that showed that you were, not trying to be kind of balanced and let the, guests do their thing.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so just quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time, but speaking on some of the previous things, with the different people through time or whatever, something I heard that was interesting was that like Samuel L. Jackson and like Lil Wayne and these different people, their names are kind of synchronistic, and their who they are is kind of resonates to even like, different archetypes, and they have a certain pool or whatever. And that's, both organic and artificially, like it, created or whatever to kind of influence people and everything. There's more, but I am kind of nervous, so I forgot. I do.
I was just going to say something along the lines of what you're talking about. Is there's the hidden hand material that says that the elite reincarnate into the same families specifically to keep their game going, that they've cracked the game of reincarnation through selective inbreeding and various rituals and demon contracts. They're able to keep the same bodies coming back, and they're all living to like 100 years. So I think there's a real possibility that our elite are either in the lineage of some ancient reptilian something that engineered us initially, and for that reason they've determined that if they find people with certain amounts of certain qualities of their genes and they breed with just those people, they can kind of resurrect that lineage or keep it alive or something weird like that. Obviously we're not read in on the meetings, but I agree.
And who knows how aware of that they are themselves.
True.
And also I do think that sometimes there's organic risings or people out there and they have a certain crowd, and I don't think that everything is like Illuminati agents, players, controllers, or whatever. Sometimes I think people just break through, and then I think the work from there is, from the manipulator's point of view, is to co-opt that somehow or to try to create some dissent, or the main thing is confusion, because harmony kind of overrides that negative field or whatever that keeps people from doing something better or whatever. But then the other thing that I wanted to touch on real quick is the dude that was talking about word magic and stuff like that, and the language being, dual and shit, which is true, because, oftentimes you have to say things multiple different ways to find your terms, because, you say one thing and then it eliminates other things and they can be contradicted. But, and there's like 26, that's half of 52, 26 letters. And then like all the words with D usually are about divide, destroy, things like that. So there's even some kind of, there's layers to it. But like good morning, it can even be flipped in your consciousness, good death, it's a resurrection, because death is a part of life. So it's even that power too. And that's what I want to touch on real quick with the, the darker pedophile stuff and things like that, is like, I have kids. So when I think of kids, I think purity, inspiration, joy, I think, free spirit. But I think some people load their consciousness up too much to give, to where they think, trafficking and things like that. It's definitely a serious issue. It needs to be focused on. but to dive too far into it, it brings you down, you know, and we have to reach past that to make it, you know, practical, what we can do to improve ourselves and things like that, as well as how we can support, you know, not allowing this shit. But I've seen like people that sharing like, you know, album covers as truth, or, you know, false pictures, or like, you know, there's a Disney Toy Story 3 with a, you know, looks like the shadows, a girl, you know, giving head. And I streamed the movie. I watched it for myself, not there, you know. So sometimes people aren't even taking the time to, you know, look a little bit further to, you know, decide what's worth sharing. They just see something, they share it. You know what I'm saying?
That's absolutely true. But I think sharing that particular example, which I'm not familiar with, probably works because there is a weird history of there being strange things in Disney films.
I agree, and that's kind of my point, is to look for yourself to cultivate the best material to show, like, look, this is for sure here, you know, to lead people to better examples. But I agree, you know, people are starting to catch on to this, and it might lead them to doing that themselves, which everyone has to do anyway, you know. So yeah, I agree.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, because that's kind of my fear with the Wayfarer thing. Like, is the shape of that true? Probably, but is that the best example we have? You know, we only get a couple chances to go viral. They only get a couple chances for the mainstream to actually ask at the level in which people were asking, did you see that Wayfarer thing? We only get a couple times for that, and we can't burn ourselves on bad examples.
And context, because if it's just like an interesting story, it's here, it's gone. And hopefully the next time they see it, they might lead someone to investigate further. But, you know, if you put it in the right context, then you can lead it to actual things going on that, you know, has more meat for people to look to, instead of just an interesting story or whatever. So yeah, man. And also with the word magic thing, you know, who knows, but the waif fair, have you seen that? That waif, I don't know the exact definition, but have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah.
People have broken down what Wayfair means, and it kind of could equate possibly to what they're doing in the dark corner.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to share something I wrote, but you know, I'm not like a performer. It's not great, so you know, there's
I like it.
No expectations, you know, or whatever for you know, to come off looking good. It might be a little awkward or whatever, but I just want to share it.
Cool.
All right, so I'm just gonna go, man. Enter my mind to find another perspective I can use to define the experience I've collected through being alive in this eclectic hive of energetic materialization. I'm inclined to be open to interpretation. I think it's important to consider information with healthy speculation, using discernment to avoid deceptive manipulation. But on the flip side, it's ignorance to have condemnation without personal investigation. If there's truth to find, I'm not afraid to face it non-complacent. We should do what is right, regardless of the implications. Even if there's no end in sight, continue without expectations. Feel the vibrations. Truth frequency has a unique resonance with a tendency to express itself across a spectrum in various degrees of measurement. If you see a pattern repeating its consciousness, develop it. If I'm seeking revelation, I proceed to feed the questions through my digestion until it flows into self-realization. In the let go, nature will show spontaneous organization. Open the window to let. Sorry, man. Open the window to feel the wind blow. Circulation is essential for alchemical transmutation. Relax, allow dilation. As a matter of fact, meditation is a great way to alleviate the feeling of being caged in. Cultivate the space to respond with grace, more room to be creative. The way out is the way in. The path back to roots is rooted in intention. Future and past collapse into the only moment that ever has been or will be. All is contained in the seed. Mind, spirit, body. This thinking, feeling system used properly gives mind, spirit, body. This thinking, feeling system used properly gives birth to actions in harmony. Drop false belief attachments that are disempowering. To solve a problem, it first takes acknowledgement, then patience and experimentation to gain the reference points necessary for navigation. Knowledge is useless without application, so trace the effects back to the source of causation to change the path, more beneficial direction. Two trains of thought combined. I'm an individual in the collective. My brain's been trained. I'm here to break the chains and follow my heart's intentions. Along the climb, I found a vine of synchronistic connection. Now I'm here to vent this verbal aggression. The vein of my spit is designed to uplift this transformative medicine. Embrace what is, grateful and patient. We are what we consume, from the air to our food. What is it laced with? It's basic. Nature promotes life. How much is synthetic and how much time do we spend outside? This earth is alive. Granted, we thrive. Everything generates a field electromagnetically intertwined. The grand design to build in the sky. We relate to the stars. It's genetic. That's why ancient builders whose words are prophetic built their great works. The meridian lines tapping Earth's force align with celestial energetics, tracing their lineage forwards through constellations formed throughout creation, knowing we are divine emanations. And while this vessel's a blessing, part of the lesson is the beast needs to be reined in. The animalistic has its own inclination. The higher minds to raise it, reach inside and guide the fire that is raging. Exercise athletic drive, mind over matter, silence the monkey mind chatter, master or be mastered, ignite your spiritual light and climb the ladder. Everything is energy. Learn how to ride the wave and balance of symmetry. Certainly learning my circuitry to rewire habitual desires to make them work for me. When I sink into sleep, the journey continues. Merging the subconscious consciously, I seek to resolve my issues. My inner narrative is honest with the bias of my shadow to raise my inner child. I refuse to be trapped in denial. See, I'm not perfect, but I strive to be the highest me and smile through the trials. Things aren't always what they seem. We grow stronger from the challenge. And in between is the seam that always seeks the balance, but the original image can't be seen physically. Connection of fractality is something only the inner eye can glean. In actuality, this nervous system interprets reality, decoding refracted light bouncing off of objects we see, the reflection projected by the sun. Visible light is just a speck in the full spectrum. Makes me ask myself the question, how fully do we experience our senses? This body we're grounded in is immeasurably magnificent. Every cell is intelligent. All these organs and glands we're enveloped in hold sensory node knowledge. This body's a microcosm of the cosmos. As above, so below. Be in the know. In realization of self comes a harvest. Welcome to the garden of growth. Reconnect cells and step in the ability to harness energetic potential. Focus the mental, create the stencil, and become the pencil drawing the image of you. Shape the vision, step into position, collapse the division, see the whole view. No separation, just one collective organism co-creating individually through unique perspectives. This is a self-created adventure. We invent our truth. Use what works for you. Far from doom and gloom, infinite love looms, conspiring for us to bloom. I believe in me because I believe in you. That's why I choose more inspiring words to use. Even living a lie, we're all see-through. Only thing that will survive is truth. So I'd rather shed my disguise and align with original design to create something beautiful. Fuck, man, that's a lot harder to do when I'm doing it to you.
Wow, man. Perfect. I mean, and on a work shift, no less, in a parking lot, that isn't easy to deliver. Wow. Hell of a job. Really great.
I appreciate it. I've only got one more thing. I just want to brag a little bit, man. I went to Free Your Mind conference and I met Roz Ben. I met Freeman Fly. I smoked a joint with the man. It was awesome. And at that time, with Jamie Hanshaw, she's got her own work in the Weird Hollywood or whatever. And that's a really good book magazine type thing. I met Derek Rose.
Coming up.
Luke.
Coming up.
That'll be awesome. Luke Radowski, Laura Eisenhower, Mark Passio, which he was, I wanted to hug that man, but he's like a stone, but I respect his work, but he's got his different thing. And so, I met Max Egan, I met some of these great minds and it was a really awesome experience. And so I just wanted to brag a little bit because that's the only conference I went to that, is like nobody I know relates to or whatever,
Yeah. I'm jealous. Right on. Well, great job. Great talking to you. You got a SoundCloud or something to lay on people?
No, like I said, man, I just, I don't share nothing.
Well,
but suggestions for guests. I don't know if you could get them now, but Thomas Fusco, Fusco, I believe. He wrote a book, Beyond the Cosmic Veil, and I really loved his stuff. But I've only seen him on Truth Frequency Radio, and he's been kind of quiet for a long time. But he's really fascinating person that's, really interesting. And then what do you think about Savan Bomar? Would you think you could have him back on, or is he maybe doing his own thing? It's hard to get a hold or something.
Well, I did have him on once, and I would have him on again. I have no problem with that. I do have a long list, and I do feel like I've asked him since, because this is probably maybe even 3 or 4 years. I feel like around a year ago I asked again, and didn't get anything back. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes you got to try more than one time. But it's just no particular reason why I haven't. I would have him on again, and I probably should. He's great.
Right. Yeah, he was really instrumental to me, but I've not listened to his stuff for a long time, for a while now. But he's, active on YouTube and his site and everything, but I would like to hear him again, but I understand if, that doesn't happen, whatever. But just throwing out those 2 things, man.
Cool. I'll try for sure.
All right, brother. Yeah. Love you. Appreciate you. Good work, man. Just know that I'm sure I'm not alone where, I love your interviews and appreciate your interview style. And there's always going to be, I don't understand why someone would be a supporter and then just, get out because of one thing, man, like what about all the other great shit, So, just appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, cool. See you.
Have a good one. That was awesome. Very awesome. I am probably going to end it with that. We are coming up on 3 hours. I know hands do keep going up, but they will go up forever. But I think that was the best way to go. We ended it on a guy who called from work and dropped some serious heat. And I just appreciate it. So, yeah, I can't say I'll never do these again, but as a regular thing, I do think we will all be more entertained by a podcast version of this, where everything is tighter. I'm not working the Zoom controls at the same time. We aren't getting people just thrust onto the air and getting nervous. Like, it does happen. I understand. And there's plenty of people who want to share things, that want to do it. They want to write out their thoughts and just give it to me that way. And so I'm going to pull material from the forums, from that particular forum. And I added, so I made the Q&A forum a sub forum of the joint session one. So you'll see both there. So if you have a question, you can throw it on the question form, obviously. And then the other one is for just the stuff you want to talk about, paranormal experiences you've had. Maybe your grandma said something interesting as she was passing through to the next life. Just interesting things that have happened, or local conspiracies, or just your theory on things, or stuff you want to add to a particular show we had. And then if we do this every month the same way, I think that we're going to get a rhythm going in a different way. I think it'll be good. I might even dedicate a section to negative feedback. I know I probably shouldn't pay attention to that stuff, but I sometimes think it might be fun to take the most harsh things people say to me and read it on the air, kind of like mean tweets like Jimmy Kimmel does. I like that bit, and I think it would be fun. Maybe some people agree with some of that stuff, but I'm not sure. That's something I'm toying around with. And then obviously I can talk about the general feel of shows after they've marinated for a little while. I can talk about the month of shows we had, and people really seem to like this. This one was the most popular. I think people are kind of interested in that. So instead of just kind of rambling my way through something like I do here, which I'm not great at, I know this is not my strong suit, but I can do it more in the format I am better with, as if I'm constructing an intro or just a whole interview or a wrap-up portion. I'm better at constructing my thoughts and then, having at least a better framework than I do for these things. So I think it'll be more fun. Also, the main factor is that it will be a podcast. People always are asking, can I get the joint session in a podcast format? And it's not. It's just in a video format. And it wouldn't be that interesting in just audio, because we are stopping for bong hits. We are trying to get people's video up. Stuff is happening. They have to quiet their dog or their kids, but we see that and we think it's kind of funny. Or a girl goes running through a grow house out into the yard. That's awesome. I like it. So those things would not make sense in an audio format. So I can't say we'll never do this. We probably should do it once in a while. But the thing that makes people show up is that it does become a routine. So to do it once in a while means not a lot of people are going to show up. And I don't know. It's difficult. There's a soft spot in my heart for what we've done here. I think it's a lot of fun. When I look at those numbers of people who actually check them out later, they're not high. The podcast is hitting some pretty good numbers, knock on wood, and, praise Odin. But these joint sessions are not typically watched. So what are we doing? But I thank all you guys for listening to the show and for tuning into this tonight, for showing up live. It's very cool. I'm going to keep trying to do what I can, trying to do the best job I can, and bringing you the best guests I find. And that's, again, why I always say, people want to be very skeptical of me. You don't need to be. Just listen to the guests. I'm bringing you people that I find interesting. And that's all I've ever done. That's all I'm going to keep doing. So I love you guys. Thanks for listening. Signing off at the 3-hour mark of the last live joint session. Maybe not last ever, but just for the sake of argument. And I love you guys. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time.